Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Ben Reeves.
Hey, how's it going?
Real good. Andrew Reiner.
Hello.
And Kyle Hilliard.
Hi, Ben.
Welcome, sir.
Hansen.
We're talking about a bunch of things, games specifically, on this podcast. Metroid, Samus Returns.
Yep.
She's back, baby.
Oh, boy.
Ben Reeves, you reviewed this game. As a tease of the conversation, I opened up your review on the website and made an audible gasp. Then we're talking about Dishonored, Death of the Outsider with JV Gwaltney in a bit. Kyle, I want to use you for your mind about Nintendo Direct and mine those new details out of you. Then we have emails and back half of the show. I don't know what the hell happens. Reeves, you hosted it. What's going on back there?
It might get super nerdy. It might go on longer than I anticipated.
And what's the topic?
Destiny 2, in fact.
There we go. A lot of people, Destiny is really a love it or hate it type of discussion point. I feel like people are so annoyed by stop going so in depth on Destiny 2.
Right.
So our solution is we want to go in depth on Destiny 2 because it's fascinating, but it's the back half of the show. So you can tune out if you hate Destiny. If you love Destiny, stick around though because it's Matt Miller and Andy McNamara.
It's, honestly, it was, I was talking to Leo afterwards, and he said, it was more interesting than I thought. There were some tidbits in there, man, you can go really nerdy with Destiny, and it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. So stay tuned for that. Talking about the raid and stuff, right?
Must listen.
There we go. For now, Metroid Samus Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Reeves, what did you give this game?
I gave it a 9.75.
Good God.
Not originally. When you posted your review, Ben Reeves.
What is this?
It was a 9.76.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I was trying to give it a little edge.
And
it's better than most 9.75s.
Not only was I shocked that he had a typo in the score.
I didn't know that was technically possible.
I was like, I had to write him. I was like, is this really what you're trying to give the game?
Just break the scale.
I changed it to a 5. I was like, did he mean a 9.75? That is
funny. 6
huge
and 5
praise.
kind of looks like
Hang on,
similar numbers.
I have no idea how you guys write reviews. I've never written one in my life here. You're typing in the score? I thought it was just like a slider that would be every 0.25. You're typing it in every time.
Yeah, you can give a game a butt if you want.
I think you can type text in there.
Can you type text? I didn't know because I didn't know you. I assumed if you tried to type in the wrong number in there, it would just give you an error or something.
Yeah,
apparently not.
I'm giving it a 538.
You could
all
give it
spelled out.
You give it pi if you wanted, I guess.
I'll be
Not
damned.
only did you type it, you published it.
Look, Ben Reeves, I think you do a good job. Can you explain how it felt to be playing a new 2D Metroid? New in quotes.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I go into that in the review where I went in. When it was announced, I was like, I'm excited that there's a new Metroid, but also the fact that it's a remake is kind of a slight bummer.
Yeah.
But then playing through it, I'm like, you know what? I'm not bummed at all. This is amazing.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. This is a lot of fun to play, and it feels a lot like Super Metroid. It's that Super Metroid revival that people have been wanting for over a decade now. Make 2D Metroid, please, Nintendo. And finally they listen, and it turns out, this is what we want. It's really good.
So go ahead, Kyle.
I was just going to say, just as a quick thing, it feels more like Super Metroid than Metroid Fusion did.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It's more old school.
Zero Mission and Fusion, compared to those two, it feels more to me. I didn't play the original 2 or the recent fan remake, so it felt like a new Super Metroid to me.
Why did Super Metroid? I'm curious why this feels more like Super Metroid compared to those others.
Fusion, this one's bigger, and I think that's the big takeaway. Fusion felt pretty A to B. There wasn't a lot that you could explore outside of the main path, and this I feel like you do have more opportunity to get lost.
There's also that fusion element if you were collecting the things that enemies would drop to power up your suit. In Fusion, I'm talking about that's how it worked. So it kind of felt it was still a good game. I still really
it's still great. Yeah.
This one feels a little more classic in your moveset outside of the Aeons.
Yeah,
what do you call
new abilities subset? You would call it,
and the melee, right?
And the melee,
the counter system,
too, which is interesting. Talking about Fusion, Mercury Steam, when they first approached Nintendo about doing a remake of a game, they wanted to remake Fusion. So I was just like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then Nintendo was like, no, we want to do Metroid 2 instead.
Nah, boy.
But they included a Fusion mode. There's
right.
a little tie in there.
Yeah, that's odd.
You can redo it.
So I'm curious about what had you so delighted while playing it. Was it just playing it and realizing the bones of Metroid 2 were much better than I ever appreciated, even though you played M2R? Or is it just a matter of playing through it, they added enough content that it felt like a whole new experience?
Yeah, I would say both of those things are correct because Metroid 2, I think, is a solid game for its time. It's hard to go back to now with modern sensibilities, and it just looks It looks pretty archaic, I think, and it's very linear, and there's not even a map, which is ridiculous. So this one, it takes basically the concept of like you're going to hunt down all the Metroids, and you're slowly like going deeper and deeper into this cavernous system. And it builds out on that. So the map is like much bigger. You're getting items that you never got in the original Metroid 2. Some of the stuff that was from like Super Metroid. Some of the stuff like the Aeon abilities, which are a complete
whole new thing.
Huh.
And just builds on that, like you said, with the counter system, which I thought is a much, I don't want to say much needed, but I think it's a much appreciated addition to just the basic combat.
That's surprising. I feel like if you would have polled 1,000 Metroid fans, like, what do you want in the next 2D Metroid? I don't think anybody would have said like a melee counter system.
Oh no, I never would have said that either. Like, it's a little unintuitive.
Yeah.
But I've always felt that you're running through Metroid, especially because you're doing so much backtracking in Metroid, where the enemies are basically become nothing to you. Like, you're just jumping past them, and like they're not really that challenging anyway.
Okay.
So in this one, they are a little bit more challenging, and if you're not using the melee counter, I think you're gonna have a tough time. But
it also like it speeds up the game in a nice way, because normally you would get to a point where you're like, well, I got to get here. I'm not fighting anything.
Right.
But here you're like, well, you know what? Using that melee, once you get that rhythm down, it's so quick to kill an enemy with it if you do it right. That like it's worth it actually taking a moment to fight more and get more energy as a result, etc.
Yeah, it's totally worth it.
It just speeds up running through the game and still keeping you active.
Right. So it was kind of a brilliant way to get you to like care about the combat, let's say, in Metroid. Plus they drop the Aeon abilities, which we've teased a dozen times now, which are basically the fuel resource that you use, this Aeon power that you get from killing enemies, and you can use that to power up a couple of different moves. Mostly it's like if you want to like improve Samus's shields. I like to call her Metroid. It's my little nickname for her.
Mrs. Metroid.
Yeah, Mrs. Metroid. You can improve her shields. You can improve her like attack power. So she'll like use this like Gatling gun like attack to like tear through enemies.
Yeah.
There's some enemies that you can't even beat without that.
So the entire hook of Metroid 2 is like, as you said, you're tracking down, hunting down all the Metroids in there, and there's 40 of them. I'm still trying to figure out what that means. In my mind, it means it's just completely open-ended. Like, hey, go find 40 of them. Is that basically the structure of this thing? Like, how many options do you have? Can you go from the beginning of the game, either hunt down and kill Metroid number 1 or hunt down and kill Metroid number 37?
No, it's not. There are areas, specific zones. So you might enter a zone and there might be like 3 Metroids in that zone.
Yeah.
And you have to
Okay.
beat those Metroids to unlock the next area.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the progress in Mario, like getting the star pieces or whatever. You need a certain number to unlock the next picture or whatever, right?
Okay.
Like, it's kind of like that, but there's times that you can kind of go off the beaten path a little bit and go back and get more. But yeah, Ben's right. You do have to get certain numbers to unlock certain areas.
So it adds kind of a nice sense of progression and like linearness to it, but it's still not linear at all. Like, it's still Metroid in that you're like exploring a map, mapping out a system, and you're like, oh, there's stuff here. I can't get to it. I need to remember to come back. And then you're like, oh, I got that new power, so now I can go back and get that energy tank, which is, for me as a Metroid fan, really satisfying.
Yeah, going back and hunting it down. So I was just traveling with Suriel, and he was playing a lot, and he was saying that like doing 40 of the same boss fight, they try to vary it up with like the environments or having some like ice Metroids or something, but does it get repetitive if you're just doing the same boss fight 40 times throughout the game?
Well, it's not.
It's not. It's not.
Yeah.
The
So
same
Suriel's
boss fight.
off his rocker?
There are I think
insane.
3 variations. Is that right? I could be
There's,
wrong.
I think, more than 3
there's more than
variations
3.
actually.
Okay, yeah. So there's, I mean, you are doing the same one kind of multiple times.
Yeah.
But there are one. It gets progressively harder as you get deeper into the game. Like there's the sort of third form. I guess I won't spoil what it is, but it's kind of late in the game. But like the third form, maybe the largest form, really gave me a hard time the first time I got to him. But then you get new abilities, and that boss fight becomes easier. So you get a nice like, it's like, ah, man, that guy was really tough, but now I have this new bomb, so that's going to make things easier. So there is a sense of progression within those bosses. They do a pretty good job making it not feel repetitive.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I thought about them as bosses when I was playing the game.
Oh,
as
yeah?
part of the thing, because there are legit bosses in the game. There's a number of like harder enemies that are not Metroids that you fight that offer a decent but rewarding challenge. Whereas the Metroids were like, especially the easy ones,
It's
are
like
pretty
a
easy to take
collectible
down.
almost.
Yeah, it's almost like, here's the guy, I need to get him. Some of the harder like late level Metroids are a little bit more challenging and almost boss like encounters, but I don't know, I enjoyed those fights.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You guys have played a new 2D Metroid.
Yeah,
It's
not
what
that
we've
big deal.
wanted.
Well, it's not. This thing is on something called the 3DS.
Oh,
Oh, so now there's something left to gripe about?
My biggest beef with it, when I turn on a 3DS game, that slider goes all the way up. Turn on the 3D effects.
Are you serious?
And guess what? This game didn't really feel it.
really?
No 3D.
Yeah.
Wait,
Well, it has 3D.
Kinda.
Well,
Okay.
you could
It's
say that
not-
about every 3DS game. Kinda has.
Ryan, I don't
stereotype
understand.
there.
You want it to be more 3D?
No, God, no. That Switch should be thrown
This
into
is
the
all
depths of
okay.
hell.
Well, is it a bummer? Do you think it's held back by the hardware at all? It still looks great.
I think
right?
it should totally be on Switch as well.
You want
it
to
looks,
the bottom screen map though? That seems very nice.
Hey,
nice.
click a button, bring up map.
You're
That's how we did it back in the day, boys.
I would adore having this game on Switch. Absolutely, I
Yeah.
agree with you there. But the 3DS is great for it. Like my favorite
Oh, yeah.
Castlevania games are 3D or DS 3DS because having the map open at all times is really nice, and I do like it.
Yeah.
Put them all on Switch.
You know what
Everything
I
on
think?
Switch.
If you ever move it over to Switch, which I think it would be great, by the way, Nintendo, maybe do a Diablo style overlay where it's kind of like, kind of faded out.
weird.
That'd be cool.
So you can
Yeah.
click on and off. Like, I think that'd be a really good
wonder.
option for Metroid.
It might just look like a mess, but it's a good idea.
Well, I mean, it's not like it'd be on there all the time. You have the option to.
Right,
turn it on.
right.
Yeah. I would imagine that the AM2R designer tried that at least. I've never thought about that. Have they ever done that in a
I don't think
Metroidvania
in
like the Diablo map?
Metroid, and I don't think I've seen it in any other Metroidvania that I can think of.
Something.
I think it would work, right?
People should write in like that Star Wars question they keep writing in about.
Yeah, with what's the most painful way for Samus to die? Is that-
That's right.
Okay.
what
Mr.
happens to
Mrs.
her
Samus.
body when she turns into a ball?
That is the ultimate question. All right.
I'm curious about that too.
I am trying to figure out who this game is for. Maybe specifically
People
self-
who
everybody.
like good video games.
Okay. I see the 975 and it's like, holy God. And I don't know how much of it is just as a huge fan of 2D Metroid, you're just so thankful to see this and it's such a delight for you to play. But I've never really gotten into a 2D Metroid
Okay.
game. If I go into this or people who've never played a 2D Metroid and they play this, maybe they played Metroid Prime or some of the 3D games, Other M, going into this, does it just hold up on its own or does it just hold up as such a crazy amount of fan service to the old games?
Yeah, I think it holds up, but it's also crazy good fan service. But it's also, like we mentioned, there's a lot of enough new stuff going on for it, so I don't feel like it feels like an archaic port of here's the same thing over again.
Yeah.
It's still Metroid, very much so, and that's what Metroid fans want. But they've polished up a lot of the systems that I think makes it even better.
Okay.
Yeah, it didn't blow my socks off
Oh.
Still
to
wearing
the
them.
degree of giving it a 9.76.
Right.
But
One-
it is a great game, right? Like it is a great game. But I don't know if it's just I've had so many of these games, from Super Nintendo to the other handhelds that it's just kind of worn off a little. It's not doing enough that's different.
That's crazy. It's crazy to hear new 2D Metroid. I've played so many of these lately.
I guess it's kind of like Skyward Sword for me. A new Zelda, but then it's like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. It's fun, but it's not. It's the charm has kind of worn off a little bit. Whereas Breath of the Wild comes out and is a complete reinvention of what
Right.
Zelda is, and you're like, oh my god, this is what I want.
Yeah.
This is kind of at that later end of 2D Metroid. This is what we wanted. But
Sure.
they're not really doing a lot that's completely different,
You
right?
can compare it to A Link Between Worlds, I think.
Oh, interesting.
And then it's just it is exactly the Metroid game that everyone's wanted for a long time. But one thing I would mention actually specifically for a new player, someone like you, Hanson, who's maybe not a big Metroid guy, one of the, is it Aeon abilities? Is that what they're called?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is it lets you scan the environment
Yeah.
to build out your map that way and find secrets.
Yeah.
And when I played it at E3, I actually kind of worried that I was like, is this going to make it too easy? Is it going to take away from the exploration? But I really adore its implementation because the big thing that it does is it just keeps you from having to do that thing that you always have to do in Metroid, which is turn into a ball and just start bombing every element of the environment.
Or scanning.
Well, Metroid Prime, I guess, right?
Well,
It's
Super
Super
Metroid had
Metroid.
that scan, but that scan.
But even so, you would
was
still have to
nice.
bomb corners and stuff. You'd have to if you saw there's a secret here. Let me see. Let me try to figure out where I can bomb. But now you can just do a quick scan and it can isolate. That's the thing I need to blow up. And then the puzzle becomes well, how do I do it? You eliminate that first step of just trying to figure out where to start. So it again, with the counter and with that map ability, it kind of speeds up the whole sort of fighting and exploration. But you still get the joy of finding new things and getting new abilities that open up things that you already saw. So it's a really good game. It turns out.
Yeah. I mean, Reese, would you stack it up just behind Super Metroid as your favorite 2D Metroids now, or where does it fall in the 2D Metroid spectrum?
Yeah, I probably would, honestly.
I
think I would too.
Yeah.
I think somebody coming in fresh might even appreciate this more than Super Metroid, which probably sounds blasphemous to some people, including me. But it is a little more polished. I think the one thing, and this might be a nostalgia thing, is like that Super Metroid art style like really does it for me. And that's one thing where like AM2R, like I was like, man, the art style is really cool in this. And the new art style, I still think it looks great. Like it's a good looking game, but like it doesn't have that like
that
classic pop.
It's 3D as opposed to like
pixelated games do. Yeah.
There's a weird detail in the Nintendo Direct, which we might talk about a little bit later. They were like pitching the game, and they said everyone from Metroid fans to Super Smash Brothers fans should pay attention to Metroid Samus Returns.
There are kids who only know Samus from Smash Brothers.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
That is kind of fascinating.
It's a weird angle. It's like, hey, if you like controlling that Samus character in 2D Smash Brothers, you'll love running around in a full game starring that character.
I can't believe they didn't say Federation Force.
Yeah, Federation Force
Sports
fans.
Ball. Yeah, it's not on there.
It's a little bit different.
Gosh.
Reeves 975.
975. I think it's worthy game if you like 2D games at all.
Yeah.
If you like platform action games, like check it out. It's
Smash Brothers.
Or Smash Brothers. If you own a 3DS, I think check it out with that 3D slider turned all the way up.
There we go.
That's immediately what you do with that machine. Just turn it all the way up.
Reeves, you're not done here yet. How much have you played of that Tooth and Tail RTS that we talked about a couple weeks ago on the podcast?
Yeah, me and Dan did a video on the site where we explored it. What is the smile? A video on the site. Yeah, it's great. I played a little bit after that as well, and I talked to Dan about it. And it's one of those games where it's like looks really cool. I think the art style.
Yes.
Speaking of old classic kind of 16-bit looking art styles,
Yeah.
it kind of has that vibe going for it, pixely. And I think the art design is really good.
Yeah.
And I really like RTS games like StarCraft, which they're kind of going for, except you control one character on the battlefield.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, when it was
control.
like, I think in the Greg Casavant interview on the podcast is where he first mentioned it to me, and then I looked it up, and it's like, holy crap, is this like a pixelated, beautiful looking throwback RTS? And it's starring like mice, inspired by Redwall, which is my favorite series of books as a kid. So it had everything going for it. Then I booted up last night, and I was surprised that it's a little bit more like Brutal Legend than I imagined, where you're actually controlling. Your cursor is the character that you're running around the map.
I didn't even think of Brutal Legend. That is a good comparison.
Yeah.
I think it loses something in that. I think...
Yeah, I wanted just mouse and keyboard, classic RTS,
Right.
but I guess, to make it approachable on console, you got to do it this way, which...
The controller support's pretty good. Like you
It
can
is,
move
yeah.
one guy and like set all the. There's elements there where you're like building farms, you're building up your units.
Mhm.
They auto generate, which is actually kind of a nice touch. So you don't have to worry about like building all your dudes. Like that micromanaging element isn't there.
Yeah.
And so it totally works. I just feel like the more I've played, the less interested I've gotten, which is kind of sad. So I'm hoping maybe if I give it more time, it'll start to open up and change a little bit more. It just felt like early on I was really hot on it, and then the more I played, the more I was like, I hope this evolves more. I'm not. I think it's interesting for anybody who likes RTSs. It's not a 976.
And with that, Reeves, we bid you adieu.
I bid you adieu.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Goodbye, buddy. JV Gwaltney, welcome, sir.
Hey guys, what's up?
Tell you what's up. The end of Dishonored? Question mark. You played and reviewed Dishonored: Death of the Outsider, right?
Right. Yeah. I reviewed it today. Our review is up right now, in fact.
So this is like a standalone expansion to Dishonored 2. Is that
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
easiest
It's in the
pitch?
same category as like not The Last of Us, Uncharted, Lost Legacy, that sort of thing. Where
It's
like
that big?
it's like 5 to 6 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think of it?
I liked it. I don't think it's the best Dishonored game, but I think it is a fitting conclusion. They said that this is the end of Dishonored.
Have they really?
Yeah, that at least I think
This story with these characters.
yeah,
Right?
that this is the end of this particular chapter of Dishonored. So no more Corvo, no more Emily. Apparently,
So things don't. I didn't finish Dishonored 2. Things don't really wrap up there. But then this is like clearly the end for all these.
this is intended to be the end of this particular arc. I think.
Yeah, there's one character, the Outsider himself, is this mystical being that's been in the universe he's been here for what, 3,000 years, something like that? 2,000 years?
And across like all 4 or 5 games, if we're including the DLC stuff, he ties everything together because he gives like all the main players their powers.
He's like Q
Right.
from Star Trek.
Yeah,
appearing
he's pretty
every
much
once in a
Q.
while.
Yeah.
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 And so you're not playing as him. And
No, you're
He's killing him.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal for
after,
people into this lore.
After the reveal of the game at E3, one of the most amusing takes I saw on it was someone said that killing the outsider is that we're going to steal the Constitution of Dishonored, which is like a very, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So how do you kill a god?
Well, I mean,
with chain blades.
Oh,
I can't get into that because it's too spoilery. But
how about
you
this?
can kill a god.
Multiple endings.
It's 2 endings.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What does it do differently than Dishonored 2?
It's mostly like small tweaks and refinements that are really appreciated. Like, for example, in Dishonored and Dishonored 2, to use your powers, you'd have to go and search out mana potion sort of deals to like power your power bar, and it'd be expensive, and it would force you to like consider when you want to use your powers. That's changed for Death of the Outsider because you have your bar recharges over time, so it's more like your powers have an extended cooldown as opposed to like, okay, I need to like immediately pop, this mana potion. So it's easier to string together combos, and the powers are a little bit different. There are only Billy Lurk, who's the main character in this one, and who
Billy Lurk?
Yeah, that's her name. Yeah.
Oh, it's a lady.
Yeah. It's she's played by Rosario Dawson, actually.
Oh, she was in Dishonored too.
Yeah, she's Megan Foster, the boat captain.
Wait a minute.
In the fiction, like she changed identities.
Changed identities.
Yeah, changed identities.
Yeah,
okay.
to hide.
Yeah,
Thank you.
because she
Big
was a
plot
character
point.
in one of the DLCs for the original game, and then she changed identities for the second game.
So the reason she has a dumb name like Lurk in a stealth game, it makes sense because she had to make it up.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
The 2 other Dishonored games, you have a lot of powers you can use, but with Billy, you only have 3. But they're all really cool. One of them is called Semblance. So it's
Semblance.
you literally walk up behind a character and you do the thing where you like knocking them out, but you steal their face. Like you literally steal their face and you walk around as them until the power runs out.
Do you have full control?
What do you mean?
Are they on a path and you're like riding along?
No, you knock them out, so you just steal their identity. So it's like Arya from Game of Thrones.
But does it have that much of an impact in a first-person game? It's just like I guess they just won't. They'll just react differently.
The ramifications, what you can do.
Like you can sneak into enemy territory and stuff, and they won't recognize you unless you like kill someone in front of them in disguise.
I feel like that's like
fair.
That's like Stealth Game 101 though. Like change your identity and then you won't get recognized.
But the animation for it's really cool because she sucks their face into her hand. And it's just like, it's really cool.
All right, that does sound good.
And Displace, which is like the Blink equivalent in this game.
Yeah.
It's different because both Emily and Corvo's version of it is sort of instantaneous, whereas Billy's is it's a marker, sort of a switch activated. So let's say you're about to go into a place filled with enemies. You can, put the marker outside of that encampment, go in, kill some people, and then zap back to it before they can kill you. But another cool thing you can do with it is you have this sort of divide by 0 thing you can do with it where, let's say one of your targets is on a stage in front of you. You can displace inside of them, like place the marker where they're standing or in front of them. And then when they step into it, you can zap there and you zap inside of them and they explode into like gory chunks.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah. And then the other power is called Foresight, and you basically just get to roam around area as like a ghost and mark things, so you can like plan heists and stuff.
That's my dream ghost activity is just slowly mark up content.
But you can see stuff through walls and see vision, enemies' visions and stuff. And those are your 3 powers that you're working with. And there's some new weapons. Like the coolest one is basically another mine that you can like throw into walls. And it can be lethal or non-lethal, but what it does is it will grab any enemy that walks by like their limbs and then slam them against the wall and either knock them out or like blow them into pieces. And then like the arm, let's say it grabs them by the arm will just be like flapping against the wall.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't play this though if you've never played either Dishonored.
Yeah, no. That's the thing because
I don't know actually, like, because I like that they Arcane cherry picked the powers for you, like. Dishonored, you've always had a lot of ownership over what you do.
Yeah.
And even Dishonored 2, who you play as. This one is very much Arcane saying, here are your powers. Here is who you are. This is the way we want you to experience it. So I think you get a different kind of Dishonored experience from it.
Right, but I do not think that this is the game that you should play first.
Well, it's the final act of a chapter.
Right.
But she is probably the most accessible character that you have.
Interesting.
Out of the gate, like... And just kind of understanding what they're doing. It's right there in front of you. You have it all from the outset.
Yeah. On that note, though, on the powers note, after you beat the game, you do get a new game plus option that lets you use powers from Dishonored 2. So, it's just worth noting.
What'd you end up giving it?
8.5.
What's next for Arcane? Prey Cult hit seems like it locked in that spot.
Yeah.
All right, there we go. But I don't know if it lit the world on fire with sales. Dishonored seems like it's petering out, and they're closing off chapters.
Mm-hmm.
They have 2 studios that have to be working on something. What the hell do you think they're doing?
I hope it's a new IP. I hope it's an immersive sim still, but I hope it's a new IP because they do that really well.
They've checked every box. I mean, they've done all the settings they can possibly do at this point for the immersive sims.
Here
They
you
got
go,
nothing
guys.
left.
Space.
Fallout competitive shooter.
Competitive.
Yep.
I don't know if that's a big
Player unknown's Fallout.
Like
Is that what
project,
you-
like a Project Snowblind kind of situation.
Yeah.
Where they take
Like
Deus Ex
Overwatch
and-
Fallout style.
They can revive their crossing idea from.
what
Valve.
was that weird kicking game that they had that everyone like still remembers because of how badass the kick animation was? Messiah of Might and Magic.
Yeah.
That they
Oh,
did?
the fantasy.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I remember
do that.
playing that, and like it wasn't very good, but I really did enjoy kicking people off ledges. Like that's what I remember.
I bet.
Ledge kicker.
Do you think
That could be the next
there's a
one.
world where they are working on something licensed? I mean, they've had 2 crazy generous shots from Bethesda with Prey to basically reboot, kind of make it their own IP, essentially.
Yeah.
And Dishonored, it's a crazy bold new world. Is now it's like, all right, let's actually get some sales rolling here. Can you please make just an action game in the Fallout universe or
maybe.
Elder Scrolls universe? Because what else?
I could see them diving more into their properties, kind of like doing ESO, like
Right, exactly.
bleeding those to death.
Yeah.
I could see them maybe taking on Fallout, doing something else. I was joking about the competitive shooter,
Yeah,
but
That's
I mean,
not crazy.
no,
No,
it's
well,
not out of line.
My biggest worry is like I just don't want them to become like Raven Software has, who they did a bunch of crazy great first person shooters like Soldier of Fortune and Singularity, and they also did the Star Wars game that everyone loves. Ryan, what is it? The Outcast.
Yeah.
Jedi Knight
Yep.
2 or 3 or something. But now they basically their support for Call of Duty. They make Call of Duty multiplayer maps, and that's just always a bummer to see like a genuinely great developer studio not even get closed out, but like just become like, okay, this lives to support another super popular game, and it's just like,
Yeah,
they're remastering stuff and they're like building maps. Like that would be the worst for Arcane for me.
Yeah, I hear you. You don't want them to go the High Moon route. Great Transformers studio, and now they're supporting Destiny. But I mean, when you look at how well Bethesda, studios games sell, and how long it takes for them to crank those out, anything they can do to speed that up, and if it's a matter of like, hey, you're a bunch of talented developers, do you want to help out with these?
Right.
Yeah.
Like Rockstar, all their studios working together on one project.
That's eventually where they're going. And I mean, the Bethesda games are, the sales-wise, are close to those Rockstar levels, if not surpassing it in some cases.
Right. I feel like Bethesda is probably my favorite publisher because they just have like, and I know sometimes this doesn't show, but they do take their time with their games. Like I know like Fallout and Skyrim, they're released and they have a bunch of bugs and stuff, but like Wolfenstein The New Order took 4 years to make. Like they just were like, yep, take your time, make that damn game. And then Doom, how many times have they canceled Doom before they came out with, the one from last year?
Yeah.
Like they take their time, they sink money into it. So, and I hope they don't really change that. I hope they can afford not to change that.
Absolutely. Well, maybe Arcane now can work on porting Doom and Wolfenstein 2 to the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, boy.
Which was revealed in Nintendo Direct. Did you watch that segment, Kyle?
I have not gotten to that segment. I was traveling with you.
That's
recently,
true.
But I did go watch a bunch of it, read all the headlines and everything.
It was weird to see a swastika in Nintendo Direct. It is. They're courting a different audience with that one.
I do, man. Seeing is believing with those games. Like I am going to have to see those two, Doom and Wolfenstein, play on Switch before I believe that, like, because like speed is so important to those games. Like I'm not usually a 60 frames per second person, but both of those games need to be super fast, and I am very skeptical on Switch.
I'm excited just for the concept of it.
Right.
I want to play those games on Switch. Will they play well?
Right, because if you have those like chugging along at 20 or 30 frames, like it's half of the game, half of the appeal of those games is gone.
I think they would be aware of that. I'm curious to see like what Doom looks like on a PC on the lowest settings. I'm guessing it looks okay, and that's probably the angle they're going to go with this.
Because that's probably what you'd want, right? Like you would take the 60 over it looking.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Right?
Otherwise, it's just miserable to play.
I mean, id Tech is awesome. That stuff was running at 60 on Xbox 360, right? Like, so I have no doubt they'll get it up there.
I remember they got Rage looking pretty nice, a version of Rage looking pretty nice on mobile phones.
And a light gun version on Breaking Bad. It looked great.
Yeah,
I really wanted to play that.
The bummer about the Wolfenstein announcement is it's not day and date with PS4 and Xbox One. It's just 2018.
And now, I don't know what that audience is, but there's probably an audience out there where it's like, I really want to play everything on Switch, so I guess I'll wait to play Wolfenstein.
Why not?
I was talking to my friend the other day because I really haven't gotten into Doom, and he was like, "Why don't you play Doom?" And it's like that parent angle again of like, it's tough for me to find time to put Doom up on a TV to play, but if it's on Switch, I am way more likely to play that game.
Because then you can angle it and hide it from your little daughter all
You
the time.
joke, but yeah, like absolutely. I can face this way and be like, don't you come over here, don't you come behind my back.
It's gonna be very silly playing Doom with Joy-Cons. What a world.
Yeah, like I feel like that's another reason to buy a Pro controller, honestly. Like, even if you're not going to play it on the big screen, but just to it's hard for me to imagine. Although Splatoon is fine, but it doesn't necessarily require precision. It's just hard for me to imagine playing a hardcore first-person shooter with the Joy-Cons over a Pro controller.
Hopefully it has motion controls, so you can
swinging
all over the place.
Throw up everywhere.
I'm talking about just you're doing
chainsaw.
You're doing Old West pistols. I'm talking about holding the whole machine. I would not like to play it that way, please.
And why
just to be clear?
Why just Wolfenstein 2? Why not
go back?
It's the second chapter. Yeah, put the first one there too.
It's already pretty ambitious that they're announcing all these ports to the Switch.
When I saw that, I was like,
it's
a new generation playing it, and the first one, why not?
The first one's on a different engine, though, right?
Yeah, just throw it out there.
That's
that simple.
Just make it.
It's like
just
when we were
hit the
talking
switch button in Unity. It works.
Yeah, it's like when we were talking with Steve Gaynor about why don't you just have a VR button for Tacoma? Just press the VR button.
Very easy.
But I had that same thought though, because it does seem like why not start from the beginning? But I mean, Wolfenstein 2 is going to be the one that everyone's talking about, you know,
in 2018.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
Rainer, what do you think, just from a business perspective, not your own, but Bethesda's of courting Nintendo so much? It's strange. Like, did the Skyrim port job just work out so well where it's like, let's keep this money train rolling? Because I guess there's going to be that audience out there. People are hungry for content on the Switch.
I was more surprised going back that they weren't in on all the other Nintendo stuff. Remember, this is a company that made a unique Elder Scrolls game for N-Gage.
You got to check it out.
They had Elder Scrolls games on flip phones.
Yeah.
You know, they've always spread their games all over the place. So this makes sense to me. This seems like they're kind of back into making tons of games each year, but opposed to just having maybe one or two. That's the business they want to have. So Switch is hot. I'm sure they're looking at all the franchises they can. I'm wondering if Fallout is too far behind these announcements. If they can get that working on
even
there.
just a port of 3, I think people would still be super on board.
That fits with the Skyrim time frame, right?
Are they publishing Skyrim?
Yeah.
We're
not sure.
I think it's Nintendo.
Right. Yeah,
is Nintendo publishing?
I think Nintendo is publishing.
I wonder if
games.
it's as simple as that, as them being the publisher. They're like, yeah, we'll give you X amount of dollars to bring more games. You know?
Yeah.
The Bethesda stuff isn't surprising to me as much as LA Noire. That's the one I'm really having trouble wrapping my head around, because when was the last time a Rockstar game, a mature Rockstar game, was on a Nintendo console?
Manhunt.
China Wars.
What was Manhunt on Wii?
Manhunt was on Wii.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just really weird to think about. I'm excited to play that game.
Yeah.
But it's just weird to think of Rockstar mature games on Nintendo again.
Absolutely.
And why LA Noire specifically? You know, I guess, is that just technically the most technically capable one of being on there?
I mean,
maybe they're trying to bring that franchise back.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not a deal. But other things, Nintendo Direct. If you guys care, Mario Party, new 3DS game where they just bundle up the top 100 games in there.
I like that as opposed to Mario Party 3. What was the last one? It was like Summer Party. See, I don't even know. I don't even know the subtitles.
The mobile Mario Party. That's a sad field. I don't understand.
End your friendship on the go collection.
But I like the angle of it. Just I would rather have that with the. Not that I don't have a ton of nostalgia for Mario Party or anything.
What?
But yeah,
that's all that game is.
I'm sorry, but I hate to break it to you, but I just don't have a lot of nostalgia for that series. But I would rather take that, which is sort of we're going to try to collect a bunch of highlights from Mario Party rather than Mario Party 11 3DS.
Yeah,
which,
for sure.
Definitely.
Xenoblade 2 announced coming December 1st this year. I love the first Xenoblade, and seeing that content in the Direct is this looks rougher. Enemy designs, animation. It's I'm very thankful Monolith is allowed to make these ambitious RPGs, but I wonder if the cost is like, hey, to get this thing out in time, we got to cut some corners.
This is the one that
I was so confused by that footage.
Oh, yeah?
Not only it was like Grandpa Elder talking
like
over the
narrated
top
by Falcor or something, right?
narrated by a character in the game, but like just seeing all the character designs, I was like, what age are they? Like, what tone are they going with in this game? Like, and then kind of how they described all the combat, I was kind of like, man, they are jamming way too much into this. Like, this should be like 2 hours of content they jammed into like 10 minutes.
Yeah,
But also,
I can't get over the protagonist's pants.
Yeah.
Like that's.
he
I
has an
remember when
Xbox.
they were showing the direct for that at E3, and Cork and I just like kept looking at each other like, dude, his pants. Like, what's going on
They
there?
make up for it by giving the lady in the game no pants. So they even out,
They even it out?
ultimately,
Good.
in their mind.
He has an
Uh,
Xbox logo on his chest, like just embedded in his chest. I don't know what's going on there.
It's weird that it was
But-
so mechanics focused, right? It was
Yeah,
odd.
it was weird. Chronicles 1, amazing.
Yeah.
On Wii.
Mhm.
Awesome game. Xenoblade X, on the other hand, or Xenosaga X, I did not like.
Yeah, a lot
So
of
I'm
people
hoping
love
this
it.
lives up to the name of having Chronicles in it and
Yeah.
is 2 proper. We'll see.
The art, I'm a little iffy on.
I guess it's some noteworthy anime designer,
Right,
too,
yeah, I'm
right?
not familiar, but
And
I'm
it's,
sure.
they just got their designs in there, like, wow, we paid for it.
Yeah.
We paid
These are the
for
pants you're gonna use.
it in more ways than one.
Are you sure? You really want to go with this?
Arena of Valor coming to Switch.
Arena what?
It's a
Arena of
MOBA,
Valor.
right?
10-cent MOBA that's
Mobile-
on
mobile
Android.
game, Yeah.
That
Yeah.
sounds like the most MOBA name I've ever
Yeah.
heard.
It's weird to put controls on it, but sure,
I don't
let's
know,
have a mobile.
It's nice.
Mobile
I mean,
MOBA.
it's nice to fill out all the genre check marks. You know,
Yeah.
we got shooters, we got racing games, we got a MOBA on there.
Free to play, right?
Yeah, probably. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
This is a weird announcement. No virtual console yet. Not a word on that.
Wait,
But-
you can buy classic systems.
Yeah, I
that
guess.
have
Well-
those games.
Well,
on
here's the
there.
weird thing. Hamster, God love them, the old arcade porting company these days. They're making a game called Arcade Archives: Mario Brothers, where it's all of Nintendo's arcade games. Which it seems like the most exciting thing out of that bunch, which they didn't highlight too much, was the arcade version of Punch-Out, which is quite a bit different.
Right.
Mhm.
And so that'll be fun to finally have on a proper Nintendo system. But like versus Balloon Fight, which is pretty much just Balloon Fight, if I remember correctly. The Mario Brothers that everybody thinks they want to play, and they play for 5 minutes and stop. But it's cool to see those arcade games getting attention.
Nostalgia-wise, I think that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. Octopath Traveler, code name from Square. That RPG, it has a really interesting art style. Reiner, you've played a little bit.
Yeah, so the demo's out now. You can download it for free on your Switch.
Yeah,
And you can play as Primrose or the guy I can't remember his
Mr.
name.
Warrior.
But Jeff Cork and I started playing. The video will be on the site hopefully soon.
Yeah.
Started playing as Primrose, and wow, it is a slow burn out of the gates. Very narrative focused, beautiful soundtrack right there with it.
Sure.
But just very narrative focused, kind of disturbing content with her being a
Yeah.
kind of exotic dancer of sorts. That
She can use a lure and bring people around.
Yeah,
Everybody has like special abilities they can use in the world, which I'm kind of excited about.
Yeah.
It's a fun way to interact with the world. It reminds me of like Golden Sun with like, Ivan, who's like the who can read people's
Romancing
minds and
Saga.
stuff.
It's turn-based RPG, right? Like that's
Yes,
Yes.
yeah, very much so. It's from the producers of Bravely Default, but I'm curious. I don't know which studio specifically is developing it.
Acquire, right?
Acquire?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think. Is
interesting.
that their name?
Never heard of them.
I think so.
And
Yeah,
is
okay.
that Switch exclusive?
It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, can't wait for the
And
real
it's
name.
Project Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
They said they're going to maybe have a different name.
Yeah, no, this is just the working title, but it might be one of those working titles where they just tweak it a little bit and it'll be called like.
The word project gets dropped. or
Yeah,
something.
honestly,
Or they
that
just
would
keep
my money
Project.
be.
I'm really enjoying sort of the Japanese game industry's like weird fixation with like just releasing demos and stuff. I'm going like, we'll change all this crap later. It doesn't matter.
That's
like
what
what they
people
did with
say.
like Final Fantasy 15, across however many demos they had.
Yeah.
Episode whatever.
Duske.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Metal Gear Solid, even right?
Oh, yeah.
to a certain degree.
That's true. So the biggest talking point for the Direct, obviously, Mario's got big fat areolas, and everyone's
Wow.
losing their mind about
That game
it.
looks incredible.
So Mario Odyssey, new trailer. This is the first time that I'm still very excited about this game. The idea of being able to play that, especially on the go, I can't wait for it to take over the world. But this is the first time where I watched a trailer and thought, I think there might be too much variety in this game.
What?
Honestly, I think I reached my limit where it's like, obviously that's the charm of 3D Mario, specifically in my mind, especially Galaxy, but like core mechanics staying the same, and then just, all right, apply it in this way, apply it in this way, look at this world. Whereas this, constantly jumping between controlling all these different characters and doing so many wacky things, I worry it'll just have this disconnected, chunky feel of doing this, whereas I just sometimes kind of want to get into a groove.
I could see, because like the way I see what you're saying, because like every level conceivably might have where you're controlling a character in 2 or 3 different ways, right?
Yeah.
Depending on who you're taking over. Yeah.
So my hat was like raised by steam the whole time. Like I was blown away by this thing. I was like, oh my God. But at one point I had a similar kind of feeling where they're scrolling through the moons in one world, and and he keeps scrolling and gets to 53 and cuts off. And I was like, oh God, that's a lot of things to collect. And then they're like, they doubled down on it, like, you're not going to believe the kind of crazy stuff you're going to have to do. Like, you'll never find this stuff. And I was like, it was like what was it? The Goombas, or Koopas or Goombas in a stack.
Yeah.
Like a totem walking over to like a ledge, and there's like 10 of them. And I was like, oh God, the stuff you're going to have to do in this to find everything.
It's like finding the Koroks in Breath of the Wild again. I wonder if they're partly inspired by that, where it's like, it's all right for those you stumble across, but trying to hunt all those down is a nightmare.
Yeah, for some of us, we're playing to see Mario's nipples. For other people, if you're a completionist, like, oh my God, it looks like this. You're going to be playing this forever, which is cool.
Do you guys think you'll get a gold poop for collecting everything in this game?
No, I get to play as Luigi.
1 gold nipple. Hey, do you guys want to move on to some great emails?
Yeah, let's do it.
Only if they're great.
And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. We got some great emails here. People sent in their wonderful emails to podcast@GameInformer.com. Feedback, thoughts, questions, news stories, jokes, quizzes, anything you want. Send it to podcast@GameInformer.com. We'll read through cream of the crop and then find the very best one, then ship them out something really nice. Kyle?
Yes.
Are you excited to read these emails?
Well, I'm not going to be reading them. I'm excited to respond to them.
Are you going to be awake and alive and vibrant?
Do I seem...
You seem tired.
Oh, no, I'm good. Man, I can't wait.
Thank you. All right.
Oh, man, I hope there's a question about something I love.
I love myself. All right, Eric Howder, first person to write in.
Eric, here we go. Question number 1.
He says, yo, Ben Hansen. The Thing is based on a short novel written by John W. Campbell Jr. and originally published in Astounding Science Fiction in August 1938. On that note, I'm sending you the damn book. Thank you, Eric. That's very nice.
Sweet.
Please.
I brought that up last time. Remember?
Yes, in response to that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
This is what we're trying
Thank
to.
you for
we're trying to track
clarifying
that down.
Yeah.
Yes. Also, no need to send anything in, but thank you very much. I will totally read that. Appreciate it there, Eric. Tom Awesome writes in from Roseville, Minnesota, God's country as they call it. He says, a couple weeks ago, Leo Vader said they had no nostalgia for Nintendo's Little Red Man. Why do you think Leo's parents failed to nurture him with Nintendo's universally loved mascot?
I don't think Leo has parents.
They wanted me to play outside.
Is that true?
Yeah, I never got a Game Boy or anything until I was super old.
Oh, yuck. Leo's parents are maybe the sweetest, nicest people in the world. I've met them multiple times. Over the top loving, just an outpouring of love towards Leo.
But
it's true.
Just wanted him to be creative and not sit around and play games.
I guess so.
Well, mission successful.
There we go.
Guess Mario really is bad.
Turns out.
Keegan from Los Angeles has a question for you, Reiner. Will Star Fox 2 have a separate review once it comes out?
We've talked about that. Question. Yeah. It's a weird thing because it is just a straight up old game, but it's never come out. Yeah. So you got to kind of weigh what factors go into that review. That's something we've discussed. Like, how do we fit this in? But yeah, it is on the table actively. You know, we do want to play through it.
Yeah.
Whether it gets a review, we'll see.
I hope it does.
At the very least, we'll have video and all that, right?
Some impressions, maybe.
At the least.
There we go.
Maybe not a scored review, but impressions.
Yeah. I think we should do a scored review. Leon Levesque from Charlottesville, Virginia says, hey, that map you're thinking of from Unreal Tournament, it was called Facing Worlds. And he says...
I thought that was a Tribes map with the 2 towers in space.
No, yeah, you always just see it.
Okay.
But nope. He says, what's the Facing Worlds of the modern shooter? I guess you could say Dusk, but what's the Dusk of the modern shooter? Follow up, what is your favorite first-person shooter map? I guess just another way of asking the same thing.
My favorite first-person shooter map is it was one of the first maps they released for Counter-Strike that was a modded map, and it's just called Snow. And it's literally just like there are 4 pillars and teams, and it's in like a snowy sort of very small map. It's basically a box. It's not even like planes or anything. And like there's one team on one side and there's one team on the other, and all the guns are in the middle. and you don't necessarily buy them. And so it's like a mad dash to the middle to grab some guns, and then you just kill each other, and it was very fun. Like I spent hours doing that. It's so dumb, but it was so fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is in Doom 2, or Final Doom, but there is just a circular spherical map, and it's just like a huge open space with walls along the side, but then a path around the side, kind of like a moat that you can kind of run along with gaps every once in a while. And I got so good at that game with the rocket launcher, where I'll see a guy go running off, and I could lead the target, shoot, and hit him. That's when I played under the name Fatality.
Oh, is that
when I was
right?
a pro? Yeah.
Oh my
You and
God.
Cliffy playing together?
I had no idea.
But no, that map, there was hundreds of maps available, but that's all we played.
Sometimes there is something beautiful in just those super simple maps. I mean, think of like the most popular Halo maps, like Blood Gulch. It's just so simple. And I was thinking like Red Faction 1. I forget the name, but there's one that's in this canyon where, it's just 2 buildings on either end. Go. And it's just, there's something really appealing about memorizing a map, I think. And when a map is so simple and it's so easy to memorize, it sticks with you a little bit more.
Right.
I'd have to go Facility. It's the dumb console route, but GoldenEye and even Felicity then in Perfect Dark, which they call it very cleverly. I love it. Just love it.
Turns out the correct answer is actually Hang 'em High.
Oh,
Sorry.
of course.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to a Bad Company map. I think it was in Bad Company 2, where you had like the stationary guns that you could mount, but it was like the hillside little city village. It was Bad Company 1. We played through that section in our replay. But whatever that map was,
it's no Hang 'em High though. Whatever it is.
Hang on.
It is not called Hang 'em High.
No, I'm saying
agree.
It's not as good as Hang 'em High, is what I'm saying, from Halo 1.
It's better.
So, but back to like his original question about what is the modern Dust? I feel like that's got to be the map for Player Unknown, right? Like that's the one. Like everyone is like trying to learn that map by heart, like which is insane because it's so huge and stuff. But I feel like that's got to be like the most well known one right now. Originally, I was going to say Hollywood and Overwatch.
Why Hollywood?
That one's just the one that sticks out the most to me. Like when I'm thinking of Overwatch, like that one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'd go with Player Unknown.
Yeah, just
like the map itself.
It was telling. So Leo Vader on the site, he posted a video showing off Fortnite's take on PUBG, essentially, in the Battle Royale genre in general. And then I was on board until I saw the map, and it's just like a circle. It looks like an old, like a Lego City map arena or something. Is that map as boring as it looks, Leo?
There's some interesting parts on it, but it's tried to mimic the Battlegrounds map in that there's a lot of open space, except it doesn't quite work because there are no vehicles. That's what I found to be the main problem with it. A lot of time running out in the open.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Anyways, Josh from Corning, hello. He says, with Nintendo giving a Mario title to Ubisoft with the recent release of Mario & Rabbids, could you imagine if Nintendo did the same for Bethesda? What franchise could Nintendo give Bethesda to do their thing with? The thought of a Kid Icarus in the form of a Skyrim gives me goosebumps.
What a weird... That's the one. Kid Icarus.
I would just like to see an ugly pit model in the Skyrim game. It's so gross.
Flying backwards.
Yeah.
We've got the amazing open world Zelda, you know.
I mean, this won't happen because we know Metroid Prime is on the way, but I would love for id to do like a Metroid Prime.
Id? Oh, weird.
That'd be interesting because like that would turn it into more of a focused shooter, maybe though.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Yeah.
For Metroid, really?
Yeah, like
Metroid's all about the environment.
I know, but like I was really impressed when Prime came out originally with like just the helmet thing. Like that's what I want. That's what I want. Damn it, Kyle.
Okay. You can want that.
Yeah, it'll never happen, but that's what I want.
It's not Nintendo proper, but get ZeniMax Online off of that ESO stuff. Get them on the Pokemon MMO.
Yeah.
The creative director loves Pokemon down there. You can do it.
But you like that's the game. That's the ultimate game, right? Pokemon MMO for some people, not for me. But like you and
the ultimate game.
You and Dan, maybe that's like the right. Would you want anyone other than Game Freak like tackling that?
I wouldn't want Game Freak to touch it.
Really?
No.
It's just I don't know. I wouldn't for like I wouldn't have wanted anyone but Nintendo to do like open world Zelda, even though there are plenty of proven open world folks.
I hear you.
But
I think Game Freak technically is not the strongest studio around.
Sure.
And the idea of them tackling the MMO, they could do it if they had 7 years.
Yeah.
Good one, Josh. Incronaut from Walnut Creek, California says, hello, crew. Just wanted to ask, what game do you feel like was most hindered by the technology of its time? As in, what game was oozing with potential but ran into what seemed like a huge tech barrier? His example is "Hey You Pikachu." It was a pretty good one.
Red Steel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because I love how that game looks.
Yeah.
And like just the whole vibe it had, but it's a nightmare to play, especially now.
So, but if it came out on Vive?
No, not even on Vive, just like a regular first-person shooter.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Like I want a game that, because it feels like a first-person Sleeping Dogs a lot. Like that's what I want.
Okay.
And yeah.
I mean, a lot of like first-person shooters on consoles early on were rough. Like if you look at like Doom on Super Nintendo or something like stuff like that with like first, like they really, it's like we can kind of do 3D, like Star Fox even.
Yeah.
Like we can kind of do
Star Fox is a great
3D,
one, yeah.
and we're gonna push it really hard. But it's like, especially when you go back to it now, like Star Fox, it's like the frame rate's really rough, and like the first person games like on Super Nintendo are just like borderline unplayable. But maybe a more recent example, I think of like the early days of Kinect. There was like a lot of potential there, and like Steel Battalion Kinect. It's like, oh, we finally get to go back to Steel Battalion, and it's just like.
Are you a Steel Battalion guy?
Not really, but I know a lot of people were excited about it, and I always liked the idea of like going back to like a really sort of detailed and difficult like mech game, with all these like interesting controls and stuff like that. But yeah,
There's so much potential in Hulk Hogan's main event, and just the idea that it was bogged down on Kinect. It needs to be freed from that system.
yeah.
I'm gonna say Pokemon Red and Blue. Come at me, seriously.
What are you
Hindered by the technology.
Talking about
Like those.
You don't even like
I always
Pokemon.
wanted like those
Those are solid.
characters to be just like more animated and vibrant, and they were just black and white, and they
You
had more
forget- I mean-
personality in the show. And I think to this day, not having a full on Pokemon RPG done up in the biggest style they could possibly do has hurt that series. At least my appreciation of it. Like, I don't think it's hit its true potential yet.
You forget. I mean, that game came out in '98 in
Yeah.
the States.
But that is the exact question. Like,
that's
their vision is grand. It's just
That's what I'm saying. Like the game, it looks shockingly retro. Even at that time, it was like, man, this is a throwback. It's another Game Boy game. It's like releasing a 3DS Metroid game in 2017. Derek on Lake Vermilion says, "Hello, Game Informer crew. Are all vendors in video games assholes? Most of the time, the literal universe is on the brink of extinction, and these jerks still make me jump through hoops to get their goods. Just sell me the sword."
No,
They aren't?
because they're usually not aware that the world's gonna end.
The vendors aren't?
I don't think so.
They are more aware than anybody. People are constantly walking through and telling them exactly what's going on. They get all the buzz, man.
Yeah, so think
I
about like
gotta make rent, baby.
yeah.
I mean, it really is like the end of days are coming, yet the town has not changed. And they're only sending one person out to save all of time. And
How would you like the town to change? You want people like panicking, like packing up their
like,
houses,
hey.
like run for it?
hey, like, here's everything I got.
Yeah.
Go for it. I'm going to go out there, say goodbye to your family.
Yeah.
I'm joining you. Let's do this.
You know, it'd be cool if, like, at the end of the third day in Majora's Mask, you could just go into the bomb shop and just take all the bombs while the owner's like out front, like looking up at the sky or something.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah. Or he's just like hanging from the back room.
But it's funny because I almost was like, sometimes I like almost see the reverse. Like I think of the Resident Evil 4 vendor. I'm like, this dude's like, he's putting himself in danger to help you out. Like, but I guess to truly help you out, he would just give you all of his inventory. I guess, right?
exactly.
I really want that guy to come back. He's the best Resident Evil character.
But, like we always,
I
can't
heard
believe
he's starring in 8.
I can't believe he hasn't shown up as like some like fighter or something. You know, in like a game.
Or like
a
Marvel versus Capcom or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
He just
in the
beats the crap
background.
out of everyone and
Yeah.
goes, "Hey,
Very
stranger."
amazing. Or he like jumps in and throws you some health and gets out of there or something.
Yeah.
Weird little belt buckle. Opening up his dumb jacket. Anyways, yeah, we don't know, Derek. Austin writes in and says, with PAX being in the spotlight the past couple weeks, I noticed there isn't as much dread over that convention compared to E3. I don't know if dread's the right word. People are whiny. Anyways, he says, what is y'all's favorite video game convention you've ever been to?
I still just like E3.
Just
That's
every
like-
year E3?
Well, specifically the year that like the big PlayStation 4 versus Xbox One year, you know, where PlayStation had all those videos about like, well, not just videos plural, but like the singular video where they're like, this is how you share PlayStation 4 games.
Yeah.
And they just handed each other. Like that was an awesome year for E3.
I agree, yeah.
And I just like E3 because it's the most exciting because it's like the biggest announcement.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah, I think about that console transition is huge. I was thinking like Gamescom 2013, which is the only Gamescom I've been to, but it was a fun big year because there was so much buzz about those two going at it.
Yeah.
I would say there's three different kinds of conventions, right? Like E3 is your big kind of consumer show, seeing all the new products. That's exciting. PAX is more about the community and just like seeing the creative side of gamers and everybody kind of getting together for a common cause. And then QuakeCon, that might be my favorite because that's just everyone playing games. Like when you go into the BYOC, the Bring Your Own Computer room, there's like 3,000, 2,000, 3,000 people lit just by the monitors, the glow of their monitors.
Talk about lit.
Playing games together. And it's great because you'll see like an Overwatch match being played, and then all of a sudden all across this like multiple football field sized arena, like people popping up at different times celebrating, and they're all in the same match.
Oh, that's
yet they're
cool.
divided by, hundreds of feet. It's super fun.
I think maybe Gamescom, because I feel like just the way that's structured, because for the entirety of while that's going on, there is like an area for journalists to like go get their stuff done with developers in a way that's just not possible at E3 or PAX. So like the part of me that's like very work oriented and who wants to get his stuff done enjoys it, and also it's in Germany, which is cool. And when work's done, you can just go chill with other people, or you can walk around the floor and see everyone in their cosplay and stuff. So I really appreciate it. I feel like it's the only convention I've been to that strikes a fine balance where I can get my job done and then go and relax and walk around.
Get that JV groove on.
Yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah, can't be chained. Mike from Maine says, "Hey, Ben and GI crew, does it really matter if a famous drummer guest stars on another artist's album?"
What?
Does it really matter if a drummer guest stars on another artist's album?
Of course. Yeah, it's a talent. It's
Sure.
bring
Mike,
different
grow
type of
up,
mu-
Maine
Yeah.
boy.
I will say, I mean, it's harder to identify differences in drummers for most people. Like, I definitely sympathize with that. But I play a lot of drums, and so I can hear a drummer and think like, oh, that's that guy.
Can you
Every
prove,
time.
Yeah, can you play drums?
Can you prove that you're a drummer
Right
on
now?
the microphone,
with your
please?
fingers?
That was Reiner. Don't
we
listen
go.
to
It's
that.
a
He's
double
guest
kick.
starring. All right,
It's a double
this
kick.
is Kyle drumming now. Jesus.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
Sweat pouring down your head.
Yeah,
And the answer is yes for every instrument. Come on.
Yeah.
Neil Peart over here.
Thank you.
Every time Dave Grohl hits a snare drum, it sounds like a shotgun blast. Like that guy is.
Doesn't he go through like a drum set every night because he just?
I'm guessing those heads.
Like
yeah.
I don't think it was their first album, right? Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the first big album from Queens of the Stone Age where he was the drummer. I can hear a difference in those songs than I do their current songs for sure.
Okay. Yeah, it was Songs for the Deaf, right?
Yeah.
Okay. James Goings. Hello. Says, hello, crew. Of all the game developer offices you've been to throughout the years, what were some of the coolest ones?
We've answered this before
Maybe
on the podcast.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but not with this crew.
Yeah.
No.
I think probably Remedy for me.
Really?
They had a what is it called? They had a sauna like
They
upstairs.
did have a sauna, and they had
which
a
is
bunch
weird.
of booze as well.
Yeah, it was just a cool layout, like
Yeah.
all the floors kind of looked into a big open lobby.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
was cool.
I
And
suppose
going like in Game Freak, which we talked a lot about, was really cool.
That's all right. Yeah.
All right.
I think the fanciest one was Dice in Sweden. It's very classy, very clean, very big, very wooden. It's a cool
Wooden.
good vibe. Yeah, it felt like a cool IKEA in there. The coolest environment.
I've only been to a handful, but I really liked Infinity Ward's office because it was just like such a weird experience, because I remember playing the original Call of Duty, and so like talking to a couple of people who were like working with that original game, and then like seeing everyone working on like one of the biggest games in the world, like just endless rows of computers and people working on it was a fascinating experience.
And they have a bunch of glass walls and ping pong tables and
Yeah.
good
Very
times.
fancy kitchen. Looks like something from the future.
Only the best.
What's yours, Hans? I mean, you've been to the most, right?
I
you said
went with Dice
was the
from
fanciest.
Sweden.
Yeah. But I mean, but you said that was like the fanciest, though.
Yeah, it was the
I
coolest,
guess
coolest
that's still-
design, I guess,
Okay.
overall. Yeah. Hello Games might be the worst. Their toilet didn't even flush. It was a nightmare. Andrew Flanagan says, of the following groups of 3 developers, I customized this a little bit, but it's a good game, Andrew, so thanks for letting me customize it. It says, of the following groups of just of the 3 developers here, who would you 1. Interview with no question off limits. 2. Give a large budget to make whatever game they want. And 3. Forced to retire from the industry.
Okay.
No other options. You got to choose. This is F, Marry, Kill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so interview, give them all the money in the world, or force them to retire.
Okay.
Unclear how. Ready for the 3?
Mhm.
Sid Meier, Miyamoto, and Kojima.
Okay.
Force Sid Meier to retire.
Oh, you dick.
Sorry. What were the other two options?
Miyamoto and Kojima.
No. The other two, like
interview, fund, or retire.
Fund Kojima, interview Miyamoto.
Okay.
Yeah. Man, I would totally agree. Like I don't know, Kojima would be a good interview because there's a lot of secrets about what happened, right, for Phantom Pain.
There we go.
But I feel it's like it's a weird qualifier to give, but I feel like that story is going to surface at some point. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where like Miyamoto, I have so many questions about. It's like I have questions that I don't think will ever be answered. Where I feel like Kojima's questions will be answered at some point.
Yeah.
And the Sid Meier angle, I personally don't really play Sid Meier's game, so it's nothing against him.
Don't you?
But I just I'm not any game that comes out in the future. I'm not interested in playing probably unless you know.
Don't you ever wonder though if you just sat down with Sid Meier and said you can take as much time as you want. Here's $400 million. You come out of this room when you're ready. Aren't you curious to see what he comes out with? He'd probably come out with an iPad game that's just like the sequel to his Flying the Plane game or whatever.
An amazing strategy game that would set the world on fire, but I just don't really enjoy strategy games.
Yeah, my concern is like any of those people that we just said, like if we give them that much money, that game will never come out, whatever it is. Like I could just see Kojima working for eternity.
I think Kojima's the only person on this list that would take forever and that game would never come out.
We'll wait 80 years. Yeah.
I agree with you guys, but at the same time, I want all of them to retire. They've been doing it for so long.
They still deserve to retire.
Like seriously, you know. I think I would give Miyamoto all the money and see, I think he's been in that Nintendo machine for so long, but what would you do outside Nintendo with just your own studio, the largest team size you need?
Oh, interesting.
Or are you saying Miyamoto, you retire? Also, here's a crap ton of money. Go do something that's not necessarily video games. Go do whatever you want.
No,
make a playground.
I would rather fund Miyamoto to make a playground than make a game.
Yeah. I want to see a playground emerge from Miyamoto's mind.
See, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Okay, so
good job, us.
Yeah. We solved the game industry problem.
Kojima, if you give him the money, you're not going to see that game for a long time, but it'll be incredible at the end of 10 years from now or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But if you tell him to retire, he's just going to tweet more. And that just means more pictures of his dinners and lunches and cool action
with
figures.
Mads.
Him meeting his favorite C-list celebrities.
Yeah. If you ever want to know what movie he just watched, follow.
But he would also be a great interview if he would talk about Konami and all that stuff.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Yeah, great question. That's got to be our question.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
We'll see. There's another good one coming up. Ready? Trevor Johnson from New Orleans says, hey, when was the last time you had to jump over something?
What? That's really...
It's really a mind bender.
I think I had to jump over a rail. I think recently. There was a roadblock or something. Yeah, I needed to get over. You
didn't jump, though. You probably climbed one thing at a time.
Yeah, I guess so. That's true.
That's different.
I jumped over a lady's dog recently because she had emerged from the building and her dog was in front of her and there was a big stone sign, and so I'm walking and then I see the dog immediately emerge right in front of my feet, so I had to hop over him.
The action is kick it.
Yeah.
Hop. What's that? I don't know. Jump is different.
Oh, come on. That counts. I was in the air.
Both feet. Same time.
Yes, I was in the air.
All right. I guess
I went
that counts.
to a Ninja Warrior training facility recently. I jumped around there.
Oh, the Assassin's Creed thing?
No. There's one in Woodbury, Minnesota. It's you can go and do American Ninja Warrior training.
What'd you do?
I swung from some ropes and jumped into a pile.
Please have video of this.
But I bet you looked really cool.
It looked very cool.
Yeah. All right. I can dig it. I couldn't think of the last time I jumped over something.
Ryder, do you have an answer?
I do. I'm on playgrounds with my daughter every weekend, so we often play The Ground is Lava, so we're jumping all over the place.
Do you scare the children? I ask this as a fellow tall man. Do you scare the children with your form as you're jumping? What is that giant monstrosity?
They just immediately poop everywhere. Yeah, no.
And then he jumps over.
If there are more kids there, I encourage her to play with them. But if we are the only ones there, then obviously that's, so I back off. When there's other kids, it's okay, I'm done.
You don't want them to mistake you for a pterodactyl.
Right, or just a crazy man. The crazy old guy on the playground.
Derek from Duluth, Minnesota, God's country, says, hello, beautiful people. I've noticed I've been subconsciously categorizing the games that I play as my day games and my night games. For example, during the morning day, I'll always go for Mario and Rabbids, but at night, I go for Night in the Woods or Neo. Those two games. I just find I enjoy certain games more at night than I do during the day, and vice versa. Am I alone?
No. Like whenever I'd play Mass Effect 2, I'd play it at night. Like that's Look, it's not that weird. It's a very grim, dark looking kind of game.
Immersive games you need to play at night.
Yeah.
Is that the simple one?
Well, on the other end of the spectrum, I think everybody kind of weighs their time when they look at what game they're picking. Like how much time will it's midnight. Can I get from point A to point B and it not be like 3 a.m.? I think that's something everybody kind of factors in. I play more multiplayer games at night in that those matches are usually 15 to 30, 40 minutes. So I know if I'm getting tired, there'll be a cutoff point and I can just go to bed.
Yeah. I also feel like it's a genre thematic thing. Like I feel deeply personal about this, that it is a sin to play horror games in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Like you need to play that at night or you're not doing it right.
What if you're a big fat baby though, JV?
Then you should still play it at night. Just man up.
Okay. I guess so. Kyle, this probably has something to do with your daughter or something.
Well, no, I just lock into a game. Like I play one, except for reviews and stuff. I'll play one game at a time. You know what I mean? Like I want to finish that game. Yeah, so
it's just like everybody else. He puts his games on one game at a time.
So if you are in that time crunch then and okay, I can't really make much progress in this, do you just not play it then? Do something else?
Yeah, I guess that happens sometimes. Yeah. It depends.
You started that answer going, you started it as a Muppet, then transitioned to a human.
Yeah, I feel like
I don't know.
I feel like I get stuck in the same thing, and that's why Persona 5 still isn't done and anywhere near
I'm right there
any
with
of
you.
you guys. Like
I can't.
I'm like 30 hours, and I don't see myself going back to it.
I know people emailed in the stats that like 35% of the people have finished it, but I'm still convinced not a single human being has seen the credits roll in that game.
I don't think Joe's being honest about it. I don't think Joe's seen it.
I think the world is lying. Roger from Stevens Point, Wisconsin says, hey, with all the video game podcasts out there, I think the game industry is oversaturated with the number of video game podcasts. What value do you think video game podcasts bring to the game industry and why?
Absolutely none.
They bring no value?
I disagree. I don't think it's oversaturated. I'm always on the hunt for a good informative podcast that'll teach me something. Recently I started listening to Easy Allies because a lot of people compared this show to that one, and they are very structured and organized over there. It's just lovely. But as far as like what it adds, I think it's a great chance to like obviously just be more conversational, but with the cover stories in particular, I think it adds a lot for the magazine to have like an outlet to be like, okay, here's what was exciting about our cover story trip, and here's what to look forward to in the month of coverage, here's what to look out for.
Yeah.
Because that's something where it's like, it'd be bizarre to write a post on the website to be like, we're excited about these things. Make sure to keep this in mind that's going to be coming up later in the month. I guess it's kind of the coverage trailer, but it doesn't still get it across. So I like having that outlet of, these are the main beats that we're going to be revealing.
I think it also gives like context.
Well, you already said that they have no value. So I think, also like additionally, they just, if you can't read, game coverage at work, you just listen to it. You know? Like that's what I just do in my previous job all the time.
Yeah.
JP, you can go ahead.
Oh, thank you.
I got my joke in. So I'm happy.
No, but like I also think it gives context to like who we are as the people who like write the stuff on the site and the magazine. So you have a better idea of like, okay, who is this person? Like, what do they like? What do they care about? When they come to like writing about Dishonored or XCOM or like Mario or whatever.
Keep listing.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. Yeah, absolutely. It's important. I'm totally with you. Kyle from North Carolina here. Speaking of previous jobs,
That's me.
He says, just a quick question. What were each of your first jobs and last jobs before GI? How did you leave those jobs?
So we go down the thing.
Reiner, what was your first job?
It ties into Game Informer. I worked at Juba's Super Value, which was a grocery market in Shakopee, Minnesota, run by a certain Dick Juba, who is...
Is that his name?
Yeah.
I thought that was Joe's nickname.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're making a Joe joke or
not. Joe Juba's uncle.
Does he look a lot like Joe, except just more of a furrowed brow?
Mm-hmm.
Yuck.
Hairier.
Is that right?
Yeah, a little bit hairier than Joe.
It doesn't take much these days.
But he did not like me, and either does Joe.
And you didn't realize the connection until after Joe was hired, right?
No, we as soon as we were interviewing him, I was like, you got to ask. And here's the thing. Matt Helgeson also, there was from Blue Earth, Minnesota, there was a Juba's Super Value there. So Matt wanted to know too. When we found out this guy was tied in with these supermarkets, we were like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So he kind of had a weird foot in the door from that, like where we just had a casual conversation and then went into the interview.
Yeah, Joe gets everywhere, man. Like, it turns out he's like from basically my hometown, the home next to my hometown. Just a weird connection. Joe won't be stopped. Also, my first job was at a grocery store. I bet I'm better at bagging stuff than you are, Reiner.
Yeah, we bagged groceries too.
Are you saying?
And we had the little tubs that we'd put on a roller and to go out to the cars.
Hell yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah.
We should have a contest to see who can bag groceries faster.
I'm very good at bagging groceries, Reiner.
I got in a lot of trouble for bagging groceries from Dick Juba.
Because you were too good?
He was watching me through a double-sided mirror up over the cashier counter, and he saw that I put the bread, or I put the eggs on top of the bread.
Oh, rookie move.
Party
foul, Reiner.
He sternly pointed at me and said, "Come up here," after I sent off the tub of groceries, and proceeded to chew me up for doing that.
Oh my God, did it feel good?
Yeah. I stole a bunch of food, and that was my day.
Weird. Well, I once got fired from a grocery store, and then I said nah, and then I just wasn't fired. I just was like, because he's like, I got another job, and so I was like cutting down on hours at the grocery store. I was working at like some art studio or something, and he's like, we're gonna have to let you go. We're gonna have to let you go. I was like, no, you aren't. Everything's fine. And then I just kept going to work, and it was fine.
And to this day, you still go there on Saturdays.
Yeah, exactly. Turns out if you're ever fired, you can just say no.
What was the grocery store?
It's called The Big Store in New London, Minnesota, run by a pervert. JV, what's yours?
My first job was I was the photographer for my high school, actually. And they just paid me, and then other people paid me freelance to do portraits and stuff of their family and stuff.
What was your douchiest photo that you took?
Always the football players.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, but
oh, you mean the most artistic,
artsy-fartsy?
I don't know, some nature garbage.
Nature garbage.
I don't know, probably some girlfriend or something I had. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. My last job was I was a teacher.
Oh yeah, like an English teacher.
Yeah,
right?
like an English teacher at a community college.
Was that rewarding?
No.
Okay.
I hated it.
Jesus Christ. Kyle, what do you got?
I worked at my first job was GameStop, and then I worked there on and off for 7 years. But I had other jobs too. One was I guarded the VIP parking lot at a convention center during hockey games, which was it was
He's the Ninja Warrior himself. He can take him out.
It was the worst stuff.
It was the
Did you have
worst job
a bat, like the baton?
No, I didn't have anything. I had a hat and God, it was the worst. I just stood there quietly and I didn't even do a good job because I just let people park because there was no one. The lot was always half empty. So if someone had the gall to be like, "Hey, can I park here?" I'd usually just be like, "Yeah, man, just go ahead. That's fine." So I was bad at it and I hated it. So
I cannot imagine a worse candidate for a guard than you.
Hey, I am totally on your side. And imagine me late high school, so even smaller and less intimidating. No beard.
Not possible.
No, to be fair though, if I saw Kyle in a toll booth or something, and I'd think I don't want to mess with this guy. He's small and orange, and I don't want to mess with him.
Small and orange.
But then let's see, and then the last job, and then I GameStop for a long time, high school, college, and then I quit to take a job at a newspaper, the Post and Courier in Charleston, which is actually one of the oldest newspapers in the United States.
Yeah, is that right?
But I worked in their office, but what I did is I didn't make content, but I managed the website of 5 small newspaper websites surrounding the Charleston, which is one of the bigger cities in South Carolina. So I managed the websites for a bunch of small towns.
Oh, cool.
Which was weird.
Neat.
See? Oh yeah, now it's cool. Yeah.
What's your guys' favorite?
I really like the FMK one.
Yeah, I like that one too. That one's good.
All right, that's solid.
I like multiplayer map too.
I like that. It's between map and F, Marry, Kill.
I can go with either of those.
I'm gonna vote F, Marry, Kill, but I just want to give a shout out to the map one.
Reiner, where you leaning?
Same way.
F, Marry, Kill?
Yep.
All right, Andrew Flanagan, I'm sorry I trimmed down your wonderful question, but it's still one, so there you go.
Yeah.
We'll ship you up something real nice. And for now, we're not done talking about games. I'm out of here because I haven't even started Destiny 2
I'm
yet.
out of
here. Yeah.
Reiner's out of here. We're all out of here, but Ben Reeves and Andy McNamara and Matt Miller are coming up to talk all about Destiny 2, talking about the raid, but I can't imagine they spoil everything, so stay tuned for that.
Welcome back to the Game Informer Podcast. I'm Ben Reeves. We've locked Hanson out of the room because we're excited to talk about Destiny 2. And he's like, Destiny? What's that?
He doesn't even know what that is.
He doesn't even know.
Completely confuses him.
But I got Matt Miller.
Hey,
Miller in the middle,
Here
as
I
we
am.
like to call him. And Andy McNamara.
Hey, what's up, Ben?
How's it going? You guys are the obvious choice for Destiny 2 because you live and breathe Destiny, from my understanding. Is that correct?
Well, we play a lot of Destiny together, Andy and I.
I would say we played an unreasonable amount of Destiny 1.
Yes.
And over the last whatever
Last week.
I don't even know. I don't even know what day it is. I have played a lot of Destiny 2. Yes.
In particular, for reasons we will get into, yesterday I finished my session of Destiny and my eyes were crossed and I couldn't even think straight.
At some point in this, are you like, maybe this is too much Destiny? Or is it ever like, I need a day off and then like the next day rolls around and you're like, no, I'm playing Destiny.
To be fair,
I do. No, it shouldn't. Yeah, I am. Yeah.
there's a couple of confounding factors here, right? I mean, one is that we do take seriously the goal of trying to offer a review and other sorts of coverage post-release as soon as we can, but we also want to be responsible in seeing everything that the game has to offer, and the game is really big. If you take into account, I mean, somebody who's just logging in, creating a character, and playing through the story is going to be like, oh, doesn't take that long.
Right.
But if you're trying to understand the balance between all the 3 different classes and all their subclasses, and you want to see the Crucible stuff, you want to see strikes, you want to do all the adventures, you want to do all the exotic quests, you want to do the raid, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And there's a lot of systems too. I mean, like even after playing hardcore for a week, I think even last night when we were playing, just
we're
running
like, how
around,
does this work?
How does this work? Yeah, like I don't understand the system. Do you understand the system? And we
Right.
kind of like discuss the system and try to figure out what it means, how it works.
Yeah.
And because I mean, that's the other thing too is like when you talk about on day one, I look at the vault and I go, cool, the vault looks great. They did a great job with the vault. And then
And you start filling up your vault.
yeah, and then 7 days later, you're like, I hate this vault. It like they could have. You just say to yourself, I can't believe after all the problems we had with Vault in Destiny 1, I'm sitting here a week in on Destiny 2 going, oh my God,
This is gonna be a problem.
I am inventory managing already.
Yeah, right.
Already am I doing that? And one of the things that eventually broke me to some degree in Destiny, the original game, was I hated logging in and spending 30 minutes in front of my vault, deleting stuff, managing stuff, moving stuff around.
And that is not an exaggeration, by the way. It did reach the point that it would take like 20, 30 minutes.
It was ridiculous. And the other thing too is it was a heartbreaking moment too in that game because you wanted to. There's a lot of guns in Destiny. That's one of the charms of Destiny is that there are a ton of guns. And some of them I go out and I shoot them and I go, all right, I hate this gun. Delete it, no problem. Walk away. Don't think about it. But there's a lot of guns I try and I go, oh, I kind of like this gun. I think this gun's good for this situation or for this situation. I'm gonna put this in my vault. And eventually, like in Destiny 1, it got to the point, and this is not early on. This is like 3 months in, where I had to make hard decisions about guns that I
much less 3 years in.
Yeah, much less.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like this was a game that eventually, even the ones that I said, oh, I think I'll find a place to use this gun, eventually was replaced by this gun really matters in that vault. And you had to get rid of it. It was like, Fatebringer and a bunch of other guns that I really liked, I deleted.
Yeah.
The Devil You Know, the Devil You Don't. I mean, all these guns got destroyed over time because of the vault. And to be a weekend and be messing with it is a little annoying. Sorry, we don't have vault tangents
now
there.
would be an appropriate time to just offer a little bit of a disclaimer about everything I think we're going to be talking about today, because we did talk about Destiny 2 about a week ago.
Yeah.
And talked about like first impressions, I think all of which were very positive. Andy and I and you, Ben, are all like pretty serious Destiny players, and as such, there's a temptation to fall into the trap of talking about all the things that are problems.
Right.
And so, I'm going to try to circle back to this concept as much as possible, but just to kind of throw it out there as we get going, I want to make the point that Destiny 2 up to this point has been a very, very good game.
Right.
It's a very big game, a very complex and rich game with a lot of different things that you can do in it. I don't want that idea to get lost in the shuffle because I'm very convinced, especially after yesterday.
Well, yeah, I had a lot of
at the raid that we're gonna get down and dirty here with a few very close to the weeds, in the weeds sorts of discussions.
Like last week, you guys talked about how great. I mean, it looks great. Yep. The sound is amazing. I mean, the gunplay is still, I think, if not the best gunplay, up there, top 5 gunplay. I mean, I assume that's all kind of an accepted norm of like Destiny. I mean, I think there's people that like the loop of Destiny. There's people that don't like the loop of Destiny, right? And like you're in the loop or you're out of the loop. And Destiny 2 doesn't necessarily break the loop.
No, no, it doesn't. It actually doesn't break the loop in a way that surprises me a little bit. I thought there was going to be a little bit more stuff that changed out the way that the end game or the cyclical game or whatever you want to kind of call that, how that stuff kind of works.
I was actually hoping to talk to you guys about that. We had, like you said, we talked about Destiny last week, and this week we're hoping to like kind of dig in a little bit deeper, go into the weeds a little bit, and you guys went straight for the weeds.
We did, we did,
which is good. But yeah, like it's interesting to get the vibe around the office with the GI crew, because outside of you two, like most people at GI played Destiny 1 and they're kind of, it's okay they bounce off pretty quick, I feel like. Whereas this time, it feels like the vibe around the office is, man, Destiny 2 is really good. It seems like people are getting into it more than the first one. And just from your guys' perspective, who really liked the first Destiny, what do you think it is about that's kind of like attracting to them? Because to me, the loop feels very similar. I don't feel like they've changed the core elements of it. Maybe it's just better polished.
It's better polished.
Yeah,
it is better polished, and there's a better on ramp. Like I think, and the better on ramp actually does cause some sorts of problems. What I mean by that is that the early story stuff, which you can play, single player, or you can play with your friends or whatever, that is a straight line through a really engaging story that's understandable. It's a coherent story that pretty much anybody can wrap their head around. It's got a really cool ending with some great missions along the way. And the game almost demands that you do that. And in so doing, I think that a lot of the people who in the first Destiny might have gotten lost because they started playing through and then they're like, okay, I've kind of played to a point where like I've hit the level cap, but I guess I'm not done.
Well, that's because they didn't
explain stuff.
Yeah. And or you didn't know that you had to go at that point. You had to go do strikes.
Right. You had to go do strikes, or you needed to go do this particular activity so that you get. None of that is there, right? Like the early hours of Destiny 2 are very much like, okay, do story mission 1, then story mission 2, and so on and so forth, with very little deviation in the early hours. And that I think does help the game to get more people understanding its systems and everything.
And but it also not to interrupt, but I mean there are two brilliant points where it's actually annoying when you do it a second time on your alt. But there's one of the great things I think they did in this story is there's 2 breaks where you have to get to level 11 and you have to get to a level 15, where it forces you to go learn mechanics that the first game didn't force you to go understand.
What do you mean by the mechanics?
I mean, go do a public quest.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Like that it got you into the things that the world had to offer, and this world is so much better than the last one that like it still feels kind of like you're in the story mode, but you're in the open world part, and it kind of forces you into that. Where the first game, you just kind of went from mission to mission to mission to mission,
right, until
it was over, right? Yeah. And so there's those kind of weird, I don't know, intermissions along the way that you kind of do some different stuff in. Yeah. I think I'm trying to reinforce your point. I think you're ultimately getting to where it does manage to get those 2 parts kind of in there and to be a part of the story. But then as you get to the end, you realize that things like, I think to the point you're trying to get, like strikes were completely left out.
Yeah, you get to the end of the story and it's very possible you haven't done a cooperative strike yet.
Yeah,
it's very possible that you haven't done like a Crucible match yet. I mean, they introduced some of that stuff to you, but the motivating principle for progression continues to be the story until that story is complete, because at that point a lot of other stuff opens up, some really important stuff, even some spoilery stuff that it's weird to think about because it was days ago now for us, but for other people who haven't finished the story, there's some really important things that happen after the credits roll that almost open up a second game, kind of like
in MMO, like traditional MMO, it's like the game starts once the like story's over.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it feels with Destiny, and like those moments where you do have to gain levels to unlock the next bit of the campaign.
Yeah.
And whether I think about it, like I think that's maybe kind of smart because like gives you a break. Where normally in a game where it's like, I have to grind to get to a level to unlock this thing, like that's annoying. But in Destiny, it's like, well, no, we're making you take a break. Now go play Destiny. Like these are the things in Destiny you're going to do anyway. Like this is
we're
still
teasing
a game.
the stuff you're eventually going to kind of do.
And the open world stuff is really good in this one. I mean, like I feel like they increase the pace and the ability to find public quests, which, you know, if you were in Destiny 1, I had an app out that was telling me where the public quests were going to be.
A quest was going to be.
And we would like split up across a zone and be like, I'm going to be by the crater, you by, and then like whoever with the public quest would happen, we would call it
converge,
out, and then we converge on the point. I mean, that's the kind of level of like that's how we had to take it to solve those things, right?
And if you'd bring somebody new into that equation, they'd be like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, this is bonkers. Why do you play this game? And of course, the answer to that was that there were all these other things about the game and the community experience of the game and the raids and all that great stuff that was attractive, that made doing those chores worth it. Mm-hmm. They've stripped out a lot of those chores. It's just more like go in, do the fun stuff that Destiny lets you do.
Yeah.
No material farming.
No material farming. Exactly.
Well, as people who really liked the first iteration there, of the first game, is there stuff that they've stripped out that you guys feel are now kind of like missing a little bit from the game that you're like, well, I actually kind of liked that when I had to do that originally?
My biggest takeaway about the game is how many. In most cases, how many fewer options there are. I think that in some cases that leads to some really smart, interesting gameplay dynamics. For instance, the way they've structured subclasses, after really wrestling with it for a while, I've ultimately come out on the side of thinking that it's generally a good thing that there's really like two clear subclass. For each subclass, there's two clear paths that each offer an optimal and interesting way to play. Now, I struggle with that though because it gives me less options. It's just fewer interesting choices that I can make with my character. The same is true with guns. The guns just have fewer customization options. It's true with things like what you do in the game. There's very odd choices about like not letting you replay story missions except in a very prescribed, structured way where you go and you do these like meditations with Ikora Ray that lets you replay.
And you can only do so many. You can only do three a week. Yeah, you can't be like, I want to go play that mission. Yeah. No, you can't.
So you can't choose to go back and do the story missions you want to play. You can't choose which Crucible matches you want to play. You just choose from one of two playlists, either quick play or competitive.
Which is annoying.
And it is all to a broader goal of streamlining and simplification and making it easy so that if somebody is playing the game, whether it's for the first time or for the millionth time, somebody who's playing the game can go into it and just be like, okay, I'm playing Crucible. I'm going in. Let's do quick play. Quick play is going to get me into some matches. It's going to be a few different types of matches, and maybe I like some of them. Maybe I don't like some others, but I'm in that game. There's no question about things, but that lack of options does rub me the wrong way sometimes as a longtime player.
Right.
But to the same point, not having to grind experience to level up your character's talents, not having to level up guns, things like that are kind of, I mean, like, it's nice to not have to do that. I remember you'd get a gun before and you go like, I'm going to level this up to see if this is any good.
To see if I even want to play with it.
You know what I mean? Right. And you would sit or you'd burn other resources into it to level it up immediately. But I mean, it was a weird system to see to some degree. That one, like, here's this gun. It doesn't quite work yet, but after you use it a lot, it'll finally
It's
work.
really cool. Finally,
Not knowing if it'll be awesome when it's fully leveled, I can see that was annoying. But there was something about like leveling up those guns that I liked. Like there was an element to that where it's like I'm progressing, like this thing is getting better as I like journey through the game.
Yep,
that
there
I
is
do kind of miss.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, and that speaks again to that issue that I constantly come back to with this game, with Destiny 2, is this idea that there were some hard decisions that in many cases were ultimately
for the good
of the broader game experience for all players, but you lose some things, right? That I am completely with you, Ben. I miss that. There's something that was really exciting about seeing the different pieces of equipment that you had each have their own progression about them, just like a character did. There's a reason we all love role-playing games that let us improve a character, because there's something exciting about taking something from not very good to being really awesome. And you don't have that anymore with guns. But you have guns that drop and are immediately great to use.
I also would explore those talents a lot more on those guns. Do you know what I mean? Now I kind of open them and go like, whatever.
Use this gun.
Or I'm not looking at trying. I mean, I'm trying to do it more now as I've got like a weekend, and I'm really finding the guns that I like, and I'm trying to see, what does this talent do?
Yeah.
How does this change this up? Which scope is my favorite of these scopes? And trying to, sharpen the pencil a bit as we go forward, because we are at raid time now. But I think there's definitely there's some feeling. I think for hardcore people, there's a little bit of feeling of loss, and there's a feeling of gain, right? It's tough. I'm glad I'm not writing the review.
A little tease there. I know you guys are exotic hunters, you could say. You guys like to collect all the guns, and I was certainly nowhere near getting them all, but it's definitely fun when you get those new ones. Is that like, it seems like that was the big chase in the last game. Is there more here, you think, like long term, than just getting all the guns, or is that enough?
I certainly haven't gotten all of the exotics yet after dozens of hours of play. I'm not exaggerating, dozens of hours in the last week. I think they do a good job, again, of introducing that dynamic of the exotic collection and the fun of that. They introduce it earlier. They build it into the story. There are 2 exotics that you get as you progress through the game, both a weapon and an armor piece. And that, I think, is a very smart move. It gets players invested in what's compelling there, and why those guns are different.
And that they know they exist.
And they know they exist. I mean, there are definitely players I knew who played a not insignificant amount of Destiny 1 and never got an exotic.
Right. It was weird to get an exotic. I think I got an exotic before I'd even gotten a legendary. Like, just like how it rolled out.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. Just like,
I think that's very true in this version. Yeah.
So there's a lot of fun stuff there. Sometimes recycling old content into a new game is considered a bad thing, but in this case, at least with the exotics, the fact that they've reintroduced some old favorites is something I quite like. I like seeing the return of some games of some weapons like Mida or Hard Light, but an improved version of it.
Yeah.
And then there's some fun new ones that I've encountered. So I'm digging the exotic collection so far.
I feel like the rate of exotic acquisition, like being Ingrams, and other things is greatly increased. Like I already have 2 exotic ships. You know what I mean? And I got an exotic speeder. Things like that are kind of. It's always fun to get those. I mean, I think that's always like kind of a high point in the game. I think because the game is giving them at a higher rate, I feel like I'm getting a lot more repeats this go.
Sure.
I like my Warlock has this, for there being 20 or 25 different, I don't even know what the number is. It might even be higher. I've gotten the same 3 helms twice. Do you know what I mean?
It does happen.
I'm just repeating the same items, which isn't too bad. But I do think.
And is by the way, to use a familiar term in the Destiny community, working as intended.
Yeah, working.
I mean, that is when you get repeats in this game, that is your signal that it's time to use that as fuel for an infusion, right? Rather than pretty much anytime you get a new exotic, it's real hard to convince yourself to be like, whatever, I'll just dismantle it to improve my power. They make that a little bit easier this time because it's easier to to build a new version of an exotic you've already found than it used to be. But it's also that they recognize that if you get that third helm of the same variety, you can use that to pop up one of your legendaries or one of your other exotics that you like.
Because the eye level gun game in this particular one is like there's soft caps that you hit, and eventually exotics and or these kind of power emblems or engrams. Sorry, I don't know what. I'm sorry, I was up late last night playing Destiny 2. They are they're the only way, right? It's so like kind of completing these major quests give you items that move you forward. Everything else is basically about 10 eye levels behind what you. Yeah. Anything you'd like. So basically, blues and purples in the world very quickly become Did it turn into an exotic? Nope. All right, delete.
Well, and the progression's also, it's worth noting that I think the progression's going to be different for people who come at the game after it's been out for a few weeks compared to that first week. There's a lot of, if you're committed to hitting close to cap in that first week, you have a limited number of milestones. Milestones reward good engrams that you can get. And there's also a limited number of exotic quests that you can complete that are going to up your level significantly. And once the raid is now out and the raid is offering higher level stuff, there's going to be trials that starts this weekend. Presumably there's going to be some like Iron Banner stuff at some point that offers higher level stuff. So all of those things together will make it so that there's a little bit more reasonable, some very clear paths at the end game to get those high level items. As it was in the first few days, people who cared a lot about getting to those high points were like, okay, I have to do this quest first, and then this quest, and then I need to go talk to this person. Do not turn this quest in, though. Yeah, go over to this person and do this other thing. It was like this whole weird,
this guy drops an item that maybe will level you up enough to get this. Yeah.
I mean, essentially,
that stuff's kind of fun, though, too,
right? Can be fun.
It is fun, but I mean, like, I played my first character, and it kind of just did things the way I wanted to do them along the way, and then, like, you get to the end, and you're like, so many mistakes.
Yes.
You look at
screwed that guy up.
You screwed up so many things to get to the eye level, and this is just I'm totally min-maxing, by the way. This is not normal, healthy behavior. I want to be very clear, and it's just like disappointing because you hit a bit of a wall right in this early week. And Miller's right; it smooths out over time, but in the early time, there's only these few options. So I of course had to make an alt immediately and do it the right way, which was to get my eye level up through grinding public events and then do all the milestones, as Miller says, in a particular order. In fact, on my alt, there's ones I still haven't done yet because I'm going to save the Mida till the very, very, very end.
You really want the Mida to be super good.
Because I want the Mida to be as high as possible.
Yeah.
Are you doing this with a different class, or are you doing this with the exact same?
Well, there's some people who power level by leveling a hunter to the end, getting all the gear, putting all the gear in the vault, deleting that hunter, and then doing it again, and then putting the gear on.
Yep.
Because that immediately ups your eye level, and then when you do the quest again, you get higher level versions of it. I am not that insane. What I have just been doing is I played my hunter first. I've been playing my warlock second, but the second run, because I was able to take the guns. Once you hit level 20, you can take the guns from your first guy. So immediately I went to 255, I think, eye level on my warlock, and within an hour,
it goes really fast,
or maybe even 2 hours, just like doing. I just went out and just did public events, just spammed them, and all I got was every single blue I went, whoa, got like 2 eye level. Blue, whoa, 2 eye, until I got to about 275, maybe even. Yeah, I think like 275, and then at that point I started to do some of the power, kind of milestone quests, but I was very selective about which ones I wanted because I wanted the bad gun to be the first exotic quest I did, so that because I knew I wouldn't use it, but it would increase my eye level so that when I got the gun I liked, i.e. Mida, I would have a higher eye level, and then the gun I wanted would come in at a higher level. So. It gets really complicated.
How do you think people figured this out at the same time? It's all just people on Reddit.
It is. I mean,
crunching numbers, and
there's a beauty to the game's interaction model. It is built now. I think Bungie is very conscious of building it to be played as a community. And playing Destiny 2 in isolation, completely in isolation, is really a mistake. Even if you're, I would say that I myself am somebody who generally prefers solo gaming most of the time. I like that experience, and I think there's a lot of people like me out there. But and there's certainly places in Destiny 2 and lots of time that you can spend in the game where you do it just by yourself. But to not engage with the public events, to not go into Crucible, to not try the raid, to not do a Nightfall, just in the name of like, I don't play with other people, is completely missing the point of what Destiny and Destiny 2 do well. And that, by extension, moves out into the community and the way they've designed certain things that are meant to be discovered through experimentation.
Right.
And any one person is just not going to figure that out.
Yeah.
But over time, there's this aggregation of information about, okay, this is how you do this thing. This raid challenge or this secret in this one mission, this is how you do it. Okay, we figured out how to get to this one room, but we can't figure out how to get past this room. Anybody figure out how to get past this room? And then somebody else figures that out. And that ongoing conversation is really interesting.
Yeah, it's like the game spilling out into the real world
It
and
is.
then kind of funneling back into the game, which
Yep.
is kind of cool. I like how that works, and like a good example of that, I think, is the raid, which you guys have mentioned a couple times, which I'd love to pick your brain about a little bit and
Yeah.
see. You guys kind of rolled in this morning with maybe a bit of a raid hangover, it looked like. So how late were you guys up?
Well, we started after the lead wave. The lead wave started obviously at
noon.
launch.
Was that
Noon
intentional?
Central?
You guys were like,
No,
we
we
just-
just that's when our group was free, and,
Okay.
and we knew we wanted to play yesterday, but
People
were-
have jobs.
yes, people
Sure.
have jobs, and we weren't so hardcore that we were like, even, and I don't mean to imply that this was even a possibility, but we weren't trying to go for like world first or anything,
Right.
And so we were going in, but we did go in blind, right? Like we weren't following a guide or anything. As such,
That's my favorite part. But I'd like to point out the my favorite part of any new MMO raid in general,
Yeah.
Destiny raid, is let's go in and see if we can figure it out.
Yeah,
like
not knowing anything.
not knowing anything, and that's why I think going quickly is so important to me. Is that over time I feel like the spoilers are going to happen.
it's really hard to avoid them.
So
It's like waiting to watch Star Wars on Blu-ray or something.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, well,
so-
something's going to happen. You're gonna
So
hear
we want to
something.
get there and we want to try to figure it out. And there are times we hit walls and we look for help, let's say. But I mean, for most of the stuff
We
that we
didn't
did
really
that
much last night. It
man,
was
we didn't.
pretty straight.
We figured it out pretty much on our own.
Oh, cool. So you guys didn't look up anything?
We didn't. So
do you feel like that means this raid's just easier? Or was it
no, we did not finish it.
No.
We played from 5 to about 2, 1:30, something
1:30
like
like that.
Good grief.
And with a couple 5-minute breaks in there to
Sure.
scarf some food
I
or
need to eat something
yeah.
immediately.
Anyway, it was. I think Andy and I both went in presuming incorrectly that Bungie had followed the same design principles for their raid that they followed for the rest of Destiny 2, which is to say, let's make this accessible. Let's make this friendly to newcomers. Let's try to find ways to
Introduce people to raiding.
to raiding.
We want in Destiny 2 more
Yeah.
people to be involved in raids.
Yes.
That was our assumption of like the way that they would have approached this.
that was completely wrong.
More than wrong. Yes.
This is. I mean, it's hard to definitively say this right now because we're only 24 hours in and we're still stinging from the pain of trying some of these encounters over and over and over again. But I think this is the most mechanically complex raid that they have released. And that's saying a lot because King's Fall was crazy. King's Fall had all sorts of weird little timing things. Okay, now you need to run around this pillar for 30 seconds, but don't run around it for 45 seconds because by then you need to be over here. Like King's Fall had a lot of crazy stuff like that. But this raid has requires a lot of communication. It has all sorts of things you need to be paying that everybody on the team needs to be paying very close attention to. I think we're trying to talk around some things because it is only a day after launch, and there's lots of people who are listening who don't want to be spoiled on it.
I mean, I would say if you're listening and you haven't done the raid yet, skip ahead. Right. I mean, I think it's hard to talk about the raid and not talk about some of the things that are both good and bad about it. Right. So
we can talk about things without giving solutions anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we can talk about things without giving solutions.
I think we can say that the set piece here is that it's basically this grand Roman Egyptian empire pleasure palace is sort of the idea.
I said it looked like a Trump hotel. It's got so much gold. It's so gaudy.
Yeah, it does have a sort of Vegas casino vibe to it almost.
Okay.
And there's this. So it's just this really, really big space. This palace that you're moving through. Kind of, and the implication through these brief voiceover moments that you get from the Emperor of the Cabal is that you're going through for his entertainment.
Okay.
Right? He
like Smash TV.
Yeah, it's very much like Smash TV. He's basically everything that we've gone into has been like, it's meant to be a puzzle from this guy. He wants to see how you perform.
He wants to challenge you, and he wants to be entertained by you.
It feels very. It doesn't like the other ones felt like, oh, I'm exploring this space.
Mm-hmm.
This is like an established
set for you.
Yeah, this is a set that you have walked into, a set gladiatorial challenge that is there versus like, Crota, I'm coming for you, and like going into their hive and fighting them. This is nothing like that. I mean, and I think that's why they kind of upped the challenge mechanics to the level they did. I mean, I think when we talk about this one, like the things I felt like we were doing to beat things were at the level that kind of hard mode did in the previous one. Like that's the kind of level of engagement they were requiring.
Yeah.
And the kind of, I mean, when we beat things, we beat them by a sliver. And if 305 is indeed the hard cap, which I've heard, or the current soft cap of eye level, I mean, we had 2 guys or 3 guys in the raid that were really close to 300 or over 300.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So, I mean, I was one of them close to that. And I mean, I could shoot things, but I didn't feel like they were falling over.
Yeah.
No.
Right. So there was a challenge there in just killing things. But moreover, killing things was not the problem.
No.
The problem was understanding and executing the mechanics, and the mechanics having a lot to ingest. I mean, like things like you need to watch this debuff,
right,
and pay attention to this buff, where this guy's going to spawn, where this guy's going to spawn, all happening in very quick succession, and it requiring a lot of communication and figuring out.
And for people who've never maybe played a Destiny raid, for example, like for me, like I agree, those are some of the more interesting elements because it doesn't function like anything else in Destiny. Even the strikes, where you, in this case, you have a 6-person team going into a raid, and each person I feel like is more necessary, let's say, or
definitely
have more roles,
to
the point where it's like, all right, one person needs to stand here and hold this thing, and then another person needs to stand here and use this gun, and then when this thing happens, we all run over here. Like it's that kind of a coordinated assault that you're figuring out, which is kind of fun.
More so than ever.
In this case. And it sounds like the sort of story conceit that they've come up with helps maybe explain away some of that.
The kind of silliness of it.
Sort of coordination of it, which is kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's neat. There's been a general trend that has continued with this one in the design philosophy that has moved away from there being a single person who is the responsible party, and instead towards everybody has a role, has a very specific role that they need to be tackling. And I like that about it. There's a necessity that if 5 people are doing what they're supposed to do, and the 6th person isn't, you're not progressing. Like you just aren't.
Yeah, you are not.
So there could definitely be a weak link in the team.
There can definitely be.
Come on, Gary.
And to be fair, I think most of us have been the weak link at some point in some raid encounter over the years. But this set of encounters. Every one of them is built that way.
Well, the thing is, on this one, every person in this particular raid, there's a little yellow diamond in the bottom right-hand corner. And so whenever someone dies, a timer starts that you have 30 seconds to res that person or everyone dies.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And every person has that little yellow diamond. That's your res. So every person gets 1 res.
Oh, you only get 1.
You get 1. Every person gets 1 res.
Okay.
So there's 6. In theory,
so
there are 6.
one person can die a bunch, right?
Yeah, one person could die 5 times and everyone saved them. But if I died 5th and I was the 6th res,
then
it's 5, right? So it's over. And so any mistake is limited in who and what you can do it. And depending on what mechanic is going on, it could happen at a time where you're like, that person died across the map. We have to go into this safe room for 15 seconds. We now have 10 seconds to try to get to that body and try to res them. While all these other mechanics are going on, I mean, that's when I talk about the kind of razor's edge that this one is demanding. And to the point that you said that everyone has a job, the second someone dies doing their job,
things really fall apart quickly.
It really falls apart really quickly. And that was the hardest. The hardest encounter we did last night was one where very tight timing across the event. Everything had a lot of gates, let's call them, that you had to get through in a timely fashion, with a lot of random things going on at the same time. So anytime someone screwed up, unless it was like in the third phase, let's say is a 3-phase fight, we were dying. We would just kill ourselves because it was over. Like there was no coming back from a bad phase 1.
Yeah, just start over.
Yeah, if the phase 1 was bad, it's over. If you got a good phase 1, or even like that was a okay phase 1, we're going to keep going forward, right? And I think even maybe when we beat it, we might have only had an okay phase 1.
Yep.
No, we had the best phase 1 we've ever had,
and an okay
phase 2.
Yep.
And then phase 3, thankfully, things melted very, very, very
we had
efficiently.
Some supers left over. And did what we need to do. But it was a challenge.
It was. We spent 3. I'd say we spent 3 or 4 hours of our 7 or 8 hours we did last night on this one encounter.
Yeah.
That when you do it right takes 10, 15 minutes.
Well, it's like, I mean,
something like that.
This is where we get into the like. I feel like so this raid's weird. You go into this main area that's got like kind of a main hub, and it has you do this kind of key challenge where you need to get keys and bring them to the door. Right. And there's a lot of elements that make that challenging, right? So it's not that simple. But every time you have to go back to this middle, you have to redo this event. So you do it once, you open the door, you go do this boss. You go back to the middle, you do that event again.
A minor variation of it.
A minor variation of it. Go open a different door, go do that boss.
Come back
to the middle, do that event again. Once again, a little bit more difficult,
sure,
right? As each like we had to change our strategy as we went to like that third return, but it's like, really, we got to do this again. And then we went to the spot where we thought we were at the boss, and we were like, let's go to the tower, let's turn in some of our stuff, let's get the stuff, let's come back. When we came back, we had to do that event again to go back to the boss. It didn't save us or checkpoint us at that.
It's a weird checkpoint system that always takes you back to the entrance.
So you're never quite sure when it's checkpointed?
Well, you always go back to the beginning of the palace.
If you don't leave, you stay at the same. The checkpoints make sense.
But when you leave and you go back in, you go back to the entrance of the palace, and then you have to do the hub event to go to your next space. It doesn't like make you redo the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It just makes you redo
that one
next thing. It's one of a few things about this raid. I mean, one of the just to be real clear about it, one of the reasons that we don't have a review out there yet is that like I think it would be irresponsible where we are at in the raid right now to try to pass judgment on it. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things I don't understand about it yet, and
I'll pass judgment on it,
and I'm still trying to like gauge some things. But there are some things that I think are things that let's use the word questionable. Okay. Questionable design decisions here. And it's maybe the first time that I
think questionable is the word Andy was looking for, right?
there are some one of the things that I think is questionable, not that I'm ready to say is bad, but the consistently raids in the past have offered a reward system that lets you build up towards success. So you succeed at encounter 1 and you get some stuff that maybe helps you do a little better the next time. Mm-hmm. And you get to encounter 2, you get a chest, you open it up, you get some stuff that helps you do better, and so on and so forth. They don't do that here. They have a reward system that, at least at first glance, appears to be built around the same reputation mechanic that the rest of Destiny 2 uses. So you get these tokens that you can't do anything with until you've beaten the raid.
And also, too, like we did get a power Ingram early on, which everyone got an upgrade, I think, from the first boss. There were 3 other items that did drop. I mean, the chests just are dropping less. They're dropping this rep token that we assume like you turn in 10 rep tokens, you're going to get an engram that opens up something, right? Right. Or you could choose something. I don't know. I mean, once again, we're trying to stay blind a little bit here.
Yeah.
So we don't know what that does. We tried to go to the tower. We tried to get in the room in the tower. Let's put it that way. We wanted to get in there to see where this NPC is that gives you the stuff back, to see what the rewards were, but they won't let you in that room. So to Miller's point, we're literally, if you weren't one of the 3 people who were lucky enough to immediately get an item from the event, there was no loot, right? Yeah. There was no loot. There were only these things, and the engram we got was, it gave us an item from the open world, not from the.
It wasn't like a raid drop.
It wasn't a raid drop. It was just this is an eye level improvement for you.
Right.
Yeah. That is a little like even like we finished the second of the hub events, and we ran over to there's a chest. It's empty. Maybe they rolled down to the bottom. No. We got nothing.
Just like crestfallen.
And like after so many like hours of work, with the first special, certainly later on, we're going to get to the point that those raids, you're going to go into the first encounter and be like breeze through it
and not care about the drop.
It's going to be fine. But especially when you're first doing a raid, there is something that's really satisfying about like, all right, well, guys, we didn't get to the boss. I mean, we knew that was going to be really hard.
But you got some rewards.
We did something tonight. We got through some stuff. We opened that chest. You know, Andy, you got that cool gun. That's pretty cool. You got that hand cannon. Great. Okay, we're good. And you didn't have that sense here, and that was a little disappointing to me. Yeah. We'll see how that shakes out. Sure.
So it sounds like the raid's more complicated than ever, and maybe that's not always for the best.
I mean, I think it's
overall.
It
sounds
could
like you guys are having
okay.
Fun,
right? One of the things I want to clarify my negativity, like the first and third kind of major encounters. The first encounter, I think we'll call the kind of what would you call it? Like the kind of bathhouse?
Yeah.
I think the bathhouse is maybe a good terminology.
That's what it is.
It's a great fight. It's fun. It's got cool it's got cool mechanics. You do a lot of interesting things. There was a lot of stuff. We had a great time solving it. Mm-hmm. You know, going like, what does this do? Oh wait, that moves a chain. What does that do? It was a great fight, a great encounter, a great Destiny encounter, and you're like, man, they're doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to that hub thing and you're like, this is fun. It was fun to figure out.
Stuff, yep.
It was a little disappointing to do it multiple times, right? Because we knew how it worked. And I feel like when I do the raid the 9th time, that will be my then, 9 times 3. It starts to get exponentially, I will have done that encounter so many millions of times by the time I farm the raid, which is unfortunate. But once that happened, we got to this kind of who's the second boss? And the third boss, by the way, the third boss had this like weird, it's called the Gauntlet, so I don't think I'm giving away too much when I say that. It has the 2 guys, I will call them runners, and what they have to do is kind of outrageously silly. When you talk about Smash TV or Running Man, it is totally Smash TV or Running. It is totally that, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of crazy. That's where we stopped last night. We were eventually just too tired and couldn't go on, but we were doing it. I was having fun at that event.
Yep.
Once again, shooting things. This second event, that one that we spent 4 hours on, the core mechanic. Spoiler alert for anyone who wants to do it, is that they want you to use stealth in Destiny, which Destiny isn't necessarily a stealth game, but this mechanic is based around using stealth and having another 2 people be
spotters.
Okay. So it's like spotters and stealth is essentially the mechanic, and it. Like most stealth mechanics in most games, because you lock up something, you're like, oh, that guy totally can't see me. That guy can totally see me. Okay, let me go stand over here. Okay, that guy can totally see. Like that the mechanic's not really apparent and obvious. You obviously don't go hit him, right? Like you figure that stuff out. But there's other things you're like, oh, I can jump over from this column to this column because I'm above the whole fray. I'm a spotter. What does it matter? All night long, 75% of the time they would jump over and nothing would happen. The other 25% of the time, the spotters would go, I have no idea. I got spotted. It's over.
I don't know how that happened.
We'd all have to go die, start over. Right? And in the stealth, you'd be like, okay, the guy's at the far end of this thing. We're perfectly fine. No, we're not. He ran over here and saw us. And so
it speaks to that what Andy was saying about like it was almost like playing a hard mode raid, right? Like one mistake through that whole sequence by one person. It was like, okay, start over.
It's over. All right. And if I think if I would have been less annoyed by this encounter and the stealth elements of it if it didn't require like essentially perfect execution. And the thing is that there's a randomness to it. You need to get to various spots in this kind of like, it's kind of a maze. It's hazy. It's dark.
Yeah.
You're kind of crouched in the dirt, the whole thing. It's kind of oppressive to some degree, which I think is intentional, and it's got a kind of interesting vibe. But you need to get to various places randomly, quickly, and solve the. And by the way, there's a couple of mechanics that come along that you're going to have to figure out on your own that are also no fun to figure out. But the mechanic is like perhaps the most inventive Destiny boss they've ever made, and I'm like as far as like wow, as a from afar as a production thing and a design idea, this is brilliant. Doing it is not fun, in my opinion. In that particular one.
So people who are probably listening to this and they're like, who have never done a raid, let's say, it might be kind of like, I don't know, maybe. What would you say to people who've never done a raid? Like, should they? Why should they try with it?
I struggle with that question.
That's a hard question.
Every previous Destiny, I have always said, listen, man, if you're not trying the raid, if you're not finding some friends and you're going in and you're just going to just like give it a shot, you're missing out on a big part of the Destiny experience.
The best part of the Destiny experience.
I think that is still probably true here, but I don't know how you would do this if you were like brand new to Destiny. I think it would be so frustrating,
especially coming fresh. You think it'd be more fun if somebody was shepherding you through, or you went online?
Even a shepherd would be hard because because there's so much weight on every single roll.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say perhaps in this event there are 3 super critical rolls, and the other 3 could just kind of follow a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's if they lag behind, if they do anything wrong and they're not like right on top of it, it's over. Like it's really wound tight.
I mean, in Destiny 1, by the time Wrath of the Machine came around, which was a really good raid, but Wrath of the Machine, by that point, you could say to somebody one of 2 things. One was that Wrath of the Machine, if you had a good shepherd, a good Sherpa that was taking you through, you were in pretty good shape, I think. But you also could say, like, all right, Wrath of the Machine is at your level, but like, why don't you go back and try Vault of Glass? It's not going to be that hard right now, and you can like get a feel for raiding. You don't have that here because Destiny 2 is a new game. You can't go back and play the old raids. So there's a weirdness there where for somebody who's never really gotten into it before, I don't know how to advise them.
There's no stepping stones.
Other than just being like, okay, Joe Schmo, like, you've never raided before. You want to have that experience. So you're going to be our one new guy. We're going to bring you in. We're going to have 4 or 5 guys who totally know what they're doing. And we're going to bring in this one new guy. And you're going to make some mistakes, and that's okay. I mean, I think you could do that.
I mean, I'm dreading playing with guys that we play with that I know are good.
Yeah.
That I know are good players that have done every
of
raid.
Yeah.
I have played with. They know my tendencies. I know theirs. And
I think your back. You got mine.
Yeah, exactly. And I think about doing this event again with them, and I go, oh God. I mean, just because everyone is going to have to relearn their role, right? And even too, if you went back and you did this, and even if I said, hey, this is what you need to do, like here is plain and simple: go A, go to B, go to C, go to D, do this, do that, end. You don't have the experience to understand how it works. Mm-hmm. Right, because it's so random and the world is so kind of, which is why it's such a good, interesting, and maybe the best designed, quote unquote, encounter they've made. I just don't know if it's the most fun encounter they've made, but it's the most interesting design they've done within the like rules of how you play Destiny, which is a shooter game. To have made this challenge is super interesting, and kudos to them for coming up with it. I just wish they would have put it somewhere else or put a little bit weaker parameters on it.
It's ludicrous to say this because I know how tremendously much work goes into putting one of these raids together. I've talked with these guys about how much time and balance work they put in. But it almost feels like this should be the raid you do after the first raid. it feels like that to me. It feels like there should be a different raid you do
that leads you into doing raids.
Yes, okay. and then you open up Leviathan as this raid that's like
Redonk.
That's very cool. I mean, like the actual art of the space is amazing. Like, it's a really, really cool place that you're going to visit. There's lots of things. I'm very, very convinced there's things that we don't understand yet. We're getting these keys to drop that we don't know what that's about.
Yeah, we don't know. We also we encountered a number of there's levers, and there's always that's one of the things the raids have always had hidden chests in them, which is always kind of fun to figure out. Which we don't know where those things are yet. There are people who do. Sure, we haven't looked yet. And by the way too, and I'm excited to do it again tonight. Like we're gonna play. Everyone is talking in our group. They're like, all right, how do we get on? Can we start earlier? Can we start earlier than 5? Can we do this? You know,
I need more time.
And Miller's like, I got to write my review. I'm like, I got to help Miller write a review. We're working, right? We got to get on this. We're ready to go. I mean, I'd go right now if we had a group ready to go.
Publish. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm excited to go back. And so I, for whatever negative things I've said about this raid and how hard it is, it's super challenging and it's certainly engaging. And if I would have beat this raid in 4 hours, I would have gone like, stupid raid can beat it in 4 hours. So there's a balance.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I want it to be somewhat challenging. Now, that said, if I would have beat this one in 4 hours, I would have said, good on Destiny for like trying to make it more open, as we said before. Like that's what we were going into, expecting it to be more approachable. So that people could see it, people could understand the draw of it, people could farm it, people could see like, hey, I get this gear, this is cool, this is how I power up, to explain the power of raids and how raids elevates your play, right? In this case, it's almost like this, and I think this raid was almost designed for the streamers, for the hardcores, for the people that on day one want to run out. They made it super challenging for us.
It's almost like a counterpoint to the rest of the game.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Which the other game was made for everyone else to be inclusive. And this one was like this was like screw everybody else. This is for the old raiders, which is you could say is cool, and you could say is too inclusive, right? I think which is where we're kind of like
that's too exclusive.
Exclusive, yeah, too exclusive. And that's where I think that's where we're like I think that's where we're confused as critics, right? I mean, I'm having fun as a guy who likes to raid, right? I'm enjoying it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Destiny responds to this in some way with the next raid that they do whenever that comes out. But yeah, and it'll be also interesting to hear you guys' thoughts when you actually finish the raid. So I'm
I think we did pretty well. I mean, even though it took us like 7 hours to get there, I think even. I think World First was many hours.
Oh, I'm watching. I follow a lot of people on Twitter that are like, I watch them play Destiny and I go, wow, like you are really good. You are a fantastic Destiny player. And I saw some of their times and it looked like they were finishing in like 12 hours.
Yeah.
I'm talking about good, like good players, elite players taking 12 hours to finish this. It's not a joke.
Yeah,
it is not a joke. It is. And that said, once all the guides come out and some of the things that maybe we're missing, because we did come up with our own strategy, maybe
there's better ways to do this.
Maybe all my complaints about this second kind of stealth thing are wrong because like we missed a whole mechanic, but the way we did it and the way we solved it, it was hard. It was really hard, and it was unforgiving. But you know. We'll see what kind of comes out of it, but it has not been a breeze. There has not been a like what was it, Crota? Like Crota, they figured out to sit on the ledge and shoot rockets in his face in like 4 hours or something like that. Like people figured that out as a way to beat that boss.
Well, there you go. The lowdown on the Destiny 2 raid. It's a play it if you dare.
It is right now. It's play it if you dare.
Oddly enough, I'm kind of interested in playing it now, and I'm at some point I know I'm going to definitely get there. And
if you want a challenge,
Ben. I mean, when you are ready to roll through there, I think. I mean, you and I have done some raiding together before. I think you're going to get a big kick out of it, and I think people. It is a thing to be. It has an aspirational quality. I'll give it that.
For sure.
Where like for somebody
I aspire to never do that second boss again.
For somebody who can get all of that raid gear and stuff that's going to be rolling out, that is definitely going to be a thing that other players can look at and be like, wow, that's really cool. I really want that. I want to get good enough that I can go into that raid.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, we should probably wrap up the discussion. I know you guys got some raiding to go do. Any final thoughts on Destiny 2 as a whole, or anything else you want to get out there before? Stay tuned for our review, obviously.
Yeah, I think the raid notwithstanding, I can speak to the broader sentiment among my friends and my coworkers here at Game Informer that this is a game that is more welcoming and more accessible to understanding than the previous one. I think if you were scared off by all of the like billions of different currency types and weird leveling structures and how does the system work, a lot of that has been smoothed over.
Not all of it,
but a lot of it.
But
a lot of it has. And so I hope that there will be people who try Destiny 2, or maybe guys and girls who who are Destiny fans, who have friends or family that they want to play with, who pull some folks in under the recognition that this time it's I think it's going to be a lot more fun and accessible to get into.
Yeah. Well, I don't envy you writing the review. It's probably going to be like 10 pages long or something like that.
I've already been working on early drafts, and it is very complicated to kind of call everything into a space that's going to fit in a couple pages on a magazine page. But we're going to see how it works.
We'll see how it works. We'll invent a new smaller type or something.
Right, that's what we need.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for being on, Andy and Miller.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for obviously listening to our nerdy geek out on Destiny 2. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you're a Destiny player, you're probably just yelling at us or something.
How wrong we are about everything.
Yeah. No, Destiny 2. But anyway, thanks again for watching, and please stay tuned for next week where we'll have another episode of the Game Informer Show waiting for you.
Cheers.